Right. Hopefully nothing else goes right. Right. Hopefully nothing else goes right. That's what I'm talking about, Past Carl. That's what I'm talking about, past Carl. Alright. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we are gathered here today to wile and style on the man, the myth, the Lolcow feeder, and legend. First, a word from our sponsors. Because in any and all likelihood, this will get more than likely claimed or taken down, because that's how aggressive Thor wants to be about it. So, you're listening to 148.8 The Coon. And now, for a word from our sponsors. Sponsors for Single Player Carl and Radio The Coon are provided by BBC Migraine Powder, Jib and Toby's Ethnic Enrichment Playground, Cringe On Demand, Blockbuster Entertainment, Uncle Tony's Riot Seasoning, Smart Negro Brand Colonized and Sheets Dating App, Immemorial Malt Liquor, and PointDexter.com, and the generous donations and watch times from viewers and haters like you. Thank you! And if you'd like to support Carl, consider leaving a wonderful donation at Ko-fi.com, Subscribestar.com, YouTube.com, and Twitch.com/SinglePlayerCarl. Make sure to support your niggatry today, or you hate black people. Alright, chat. We're not going to do a recitivization of every single niggling drama that concerns PirateSoftware. I do not care. I already know. More than likely have more details than you. I'm not going over them, because we need to do a grand overview and get us to where we are today. So, we are here to discuss the behaviors, the attitude patterns, and the sheer chutzpah of one Jason Thor Hall. PirateSoftware, as he brands himself. 3-time hacker extraordinaire, winner of the Black Box Awards, indie developer to the stars, formerly of Off-Brand Games, and the reason why, currently at time of standing, can't type. The Stop Killing Games initiative is currently sitting at a whopping and strong 1.182 million signatures, and pushing possibly to the point that they might actually make it to 1.4 on the 15th. Seen here. By all accounts, all of this literally isn't possible without Stop Killing Games. The original response given about Stop Killing Games 10 to 11 months ago. The behavior that has been devolving since late. The topics that we've already covered on Carl at Home. And the recent developments that have occurred due to a combined behavior of PirateSoftware himself, Moist Critical, Josh Strife Hayes, and the collective internet actively making fun of him across countries, time zones, communities, and hobby circles. Literally none of this happens without everything that happened happening. So, extremely fast rundown. About, let's say 12 months ago. 12 months is about right. The world is reminded yet again, just as much as Raffle playing Bellaccio on YouTube Shorts, about PirateSoftware and his many shorts about his content.
Who wants to know the...
There have been times where you have been one of the many people who has seen shorts such as these. See if it works.
You want to share them?
Sure.
Or do I need to watch them on your stream?
Also, hello.
Hello. Good to see you, friend.
Never one to miss out on content, huh, horror?
I've been the content today. What do you mean?
I don't know what that means.
Were your ears burning?
No.
I was being tortured.
With what?
For like 5 hours.
With what?
I lost another Harmon Smith bingo, and I had to do an hour of reacting to another Sony pony named Reforge Gaming.
Oh, I know about that guy.
Yeah, I ended up watching that for like 5 to 6 hours, or at least reacting to like 3 videos for 5 to 6 hours, and I still have like another 4 that I got to do next Saturday.
That sounds like pain.
Yes, but at least I made more than 2 days worth of pay at my normal job doing it.
Okay. That's
It could
fair.
possibly make more. Yeah.
I've basically been doing the same thing here on the channel. If it's not just because Exo Crusher's been throwing money at me. Anyways. About, even technically further back than that, because he's been on Twitch forever. You will have been greeted by shorts like these, chat.
The secret for YouTube Shorts. It's one of the strangest things you'll ever see. There's a little checkbox, and that checkbox says, if you want to notify your subs of the upload. And you know what you do? You uncheck that box. Why would we do this, chat? Why would we uncheck the box to notify subscribers? Well, the way that the algorithm works on a lot of these platforms is if you have a bunch of subs and it sends it out to those subs and they don't interact with it, it goes, wait a minute, people aren't interacting with this. I won't waste my time with it. Many people who subscribe to you will eventually be dead accounts. They don't log in anymore, they don't look at YouTube, they may not interact with your stuff, etc. If you turn this off, it sends it only to people who aren't subscribed to you yet, which means live active users. So when you make a short, you uncheck that box, and it goes into live feeds only, with real people interacting with it.
Now, there's a reason I chose this one specifically. I'm going to click back at the section here. I'm going to see if anybody notices the way that Thor's brain works.
People aren't interacting with this, I won't waste my time with it. Many people who subscribe to you will eventually be dead accounts. They don't log in anymore, they don't look at YouTube, they may not interact with your stuff, etc. If you turn this off, it sends it only to people who aren't subscribed to you yet.
And this right here is pretty much, if you just pull out and you just look at all the content that's on his channel in terms of shorts, is the majority of what Thor is known for. Non-stop shorts. Literally non-stop shorts. He has an entire team dedicated to it, as most people repatriating their content from Twitch do. But I chose the shorts secrets specifically because in the world of PirateSoftware, Jason is 2 things. The first thing he is longer hair Devin Nash. All of the tips and tricks on how to game the system, gamify, monetize, and scam, cheat, hack around the algorithm. And 2, he is the yapper. Every time he makes content, it was going into the feeds of people who have never heard of him, but the best parts that they would hear of him, maybe further back, would be somewhere around about here. Actually, no, that's even further back. Probably in ones like this.
The community of people that watch on Ferret Software did something amazing today. One of the things that the community on the Ferret Software channel does is they actually say stuff. You know, hey, something looks wrong, something is, you know, they have a toy in the cage or some shit like that. Moxie fell on the floor and just got really lethargic and shitty, and Shay was not in the room. The community alerted the moderators. The moderators called us, like, by phone, and Moxie actually was going through what is called a blood glucose crash because she has insulinoma. Likely saved Moxie's life. So thank you for reporting that, because if we wouldn't have gotten to her in time, ferrets can die from that. It happens in ferrets that have insulinoma. It's a very common thing, and if you don't catch it soon enough, it can cause permanent damage or death. So,
on top of having his own channels, he also runs a Twitch companion channel by the name of PirateSoftware, because they basically run a ferret farm/rescue. He is somebody who I can describe when it comes to Twitch culture, and I don't mean people who broadcast on Twitch because they happen to put their streams on there. I mean actual Redditor Twitch handshake culture. Is someone who had what I can describe as the gamer mandate of heaven. He's had a lot of subs. You see his content everywhere because familiarity breeds contempt, but you don't actually watch his content through impressions. You just get impressions by what he puts out about himself. He must be popular. He must be a good person. He must be kind-hearted. He must be somebody who knows what he's talking about. He's worked at Blizzard 7 years. His dad worked on the cinematics for Diablo. Everything necessary to set the stage that created the downfall all started with these shorts. The sheer dearth of the shorts that exist. His involvement with Ashes of Creation, his game with Heartbound, his opinion about relationships, his opinion about how you should do piracy, his opinion about how, repeating Gabe's words, that piracy is a service issue. That when people steal his games, all he does is he contacts them, gets them to run basic malware removal software, and then gives them a free code. Because it's good press. Formerly of Offkai Games, and one of the many people who has an arm reach connection to OTK through Ludwig, and all of the other literally who, and only known for this, streamers that exist on Twitch. Truthfully, personally, I've never met the man. And, despite how much I have reported on his content, the sheer nature of what I have done for reporting has always been strictly in the position of not what people have told me, not what's a funny meme, but what is actually relevant to his character and his community. Because his community very much is who he panders his content towards. He only cares about the people who are there. He's not concerned with people who have been there since the beginning, because, as you heard him from himself, he does not make his content specifically so that he can keep serving to the audience that he is a part of, while still having a mind to grow. Instead, he specifically is only caring about the people who stick their head in and are around when content happens. This was the first and second mistakes that he made. Third mistake, as we all are already aware, was the event, the moment.
Before we get to that, can we at least give one thing that he didn't make as a mistake?
Go for it.
He didn't fuck his ferrets to death.
Mm-hmm.
Like Birdie.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I'm horrified by the fact I had to learn that secondhand.
Uh-huh. As am I.
As it was the Lolcow squeal that happened across the internet, and has been the event that people have been either farming or have been farmed for concerning the topic. Every single bit of everything that has proceeded about Stop Killing Games could not happen without the Only Fangs 2 crash out. Now, as I said before when I was in the chat, and then when I was asked again inside a group of moderators and members of DevCord to ask me about my opinion, believing that I said something that I didn't. The position of Thor during this content was similar to the event that happened to me inside of Once Human Season 1 and 1.2/2.5. Day 1 content, you show up for material and content, you play game, you have fun, play for 6 to 16 hours. People don't like you, make up fiction about you, because you're broadcasting a lot, and they only know about you by name, they don't actually know you by reputation, and they're always socially active in typing, but they never actually engage directly in chatting. Opinion is made about you through the grapevine. Behavior then continues to supersede over knowing what's true versus, hey, you wanna see a magic trick? Which then leads to perpetual trolling. It was not only PirateSoftware. There were other members of OnlyFans too that were specifically targeted for the harassment. It just so happens to be that of the people who were there, PirateSoftware was one of the many 4- and 5-figure streamers that were on the broadcast team, that were specifically a part of the content, that were doing other work other than this work. Because this happened before Monster Hunter Wilds dropped. This then proceeded and continued into him quitting, all the way to when he got involved with hardcore Path of Exile 2, and then even continued further into Ashes of Creation, and continued further past that, simply because of 7 years, no mana. Everybody chooses their side on who says what. I don't care about any of that. My opinion has remained the same, which is, when he crashed out, it was because of non-stop behavior that was precipitated from Yamato's blade. However, after the crash outs, and the backstabs, and the roachings, and the no mana, and the mana cloak, and the mana crystal, and the really non-stop cope and seethe on TikTok from people wanting to keep it going even after the event was done, regardless of whether or not you think it would have stopped if he had just apologized or not, I don't believe it would have. This then brought us to the Dr. K stream. Because he was non-stop being asked to do an interview with PirateSoftware to rehabilitate his image, this then led to the reaction that had an honest conversation with PirateSoftware. Inside this material, reviewed by many people, but the one that I'm going to choose to use here, being my personal friend Devin, on his video about PirateSoftware's toxic ego.
I'm just gonna give it to you straight.
Recently, I saw.
I'm just gonna give it to you.
In the material concerning his involvement with PirateSoftware, Dr. K would demonstrate one of the many problems that are necessary to understanding the capitulation of someone like PirateSoftware. Now, the nice way that I'm going to phrase it, if I can find the text section that involves it, is that regardless of how he chooses to admit it, PirateSoftware is a size queen. Now, recent events have demonstrated that to be the case, but the real changes about this started when the entire internet was watching this conversation. Sure, everybody knows about Dr. K, and if you don't know, we know about things like what happened with the streamer who committed suicide because Wreckful didn't get help from his friends, and everyone's heard about the BetterHelp bullshit, and blah 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 blah, and blah 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 blah. It's possible that he didn't even write this shit down. But in this conversation, one of the many things that were necessary to understanding the mentality of PirateSoftware and why he considers himself a lordship that needs to speak in such a capacity where there is no speech that can be done and there is no conversation that he can be able to address is the concept of frame control. Hopefully I found the right section here. And I will let Devin explain in his own words.
Javal, for the sake
Their rationale.
that people would fuck off.
For most people, it's very hard to apologize without adding in their rationale, because people like to tell their stories. They want to justify what they did, because doing so absolves them of some of the guilt of the apology. There is a huge difference between, I'm sorry I snapped at you, you were just bugging me so much and I was already pissed off from work and you drove me crazy, versus, I'm sorry I snapped at you. Maybe it is actually the case that your girlfriend did bug you a lot and work really did piss you off. And there are appropriate times to solve those problems. But that time isn't this conversation when you're apologizing for what you did. Having a good reason to do a bad action may be understandable. It may even be justifiable, but it's almost always better to not do the bad action in the first place. Whether people can word it or not, most people can't, Yamato kinda could. This is the core problem. What people want from Pirate is accountability. What Pirate is offering isn't accountability, it's justification. It's self-absolution.
There's something about the way that I hear you talk that rubs me the wrong way. There's something about the way that you talk that seems dismissive. So I'll tell you where that...
No, I agree with that.
Right? So
No,
it's like, I made a mistake, we all made mistakes.
Okay.
Right? So there's something about your sentence construction. It's like, oh yeah, Thor, I'm sorry I cheated on you, bro. I really do love you. You know, we both have flaws in this marriage. Like, do you see what that... We're not married, but... You see what I mean?
Now that you've cheated on me.
Yeah. So there's something, and I don't think, and this is what's so tricky, is like, I don't think you're wrong. Like, I don't, and what we got
the way
from
that
you...
I feel about it
Yeah.
is that it I don't even know if the word, it doesn't feel like a lie. It feels like...
Appeasement.
It feels like appeasement for the sake of appeasement.
Yeah.
It feels like they're asking for something that they know is not real, and I'd be giving them something that we both know is not real for the sake of giving something that's not real so that they stop being mad about something that doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, so I think I think the key thing there is I was trying to figure out what won me over when you said that. And I'd be super curious if, like, how chat reacts to that as well. I'm not looking. I don't think you should, but because I think that that's what people are missing from you, is like when you, and this is what I think makes you great, is when you actually, your best content is not when you're logical. Your best content is when you're emotional. And the logic supports it. Like, there's logic there. But you're like, look, I'm not willing to do that. Could I do that? Absolutely. I just don't think that's right.
Yeah.
I think that this is like a stupid fucking appeasement world. I'm not going to be like all of the other streamers who post bullshit apology videos for the sake of appeasement and virtue signaling. I think that I kind of fucked up. I'm not done.
So, multiple times in my content, I have always talked about this concept of listening versus waiting to talk. And sometimes people don't even fucking wait. The back and forth, the hee-hawing and the fidgeting and the attempt to try to intercede into what he's saying, and the abrasive nature of attempting to slow down the conversation, to attempt to rein in the conversation back into his ball court of the points he wants to make. This is called frame control. As Dev goes on in this section to explain in detail, using examples fictionally about Naomi, and a simulacrum of himself in his head that he has with her, the idea of frame control requires you to put yourself into a position where the conversation can be led in a direction that you want it to go in, ameliorative or not, based on how you choose to play with words and other people's perceptions of emotions. But the response and the feedback that you get from this creates a loop where the behavior that you exude and the action that you do not match the energy of what needs to be done. 225.44. So, in the Color 1 call that happens with Yamato's blade, Pirate does this.
But this is simply Pirate justifying why it was
Chanting 300.
to the whole guild.
You've seen my enchanting, right?
Oh, I don't know. Okay, you can't ask me about. I don't know shit about mages. To be honest, bro. I didn't get
No,
funneled
not
advice.
mages, professions.
No, I don't know. I know what professions are. I just don't know what they do at what level.
I have 300 enchanting, 300 tailoring. I'm one of the primary enchanters in the guild. I have hundreds of large brilliant shards in my bank. We'd lose all of this as a guild.
Yeah. Okay. I get. See, there. It's right there. So you just didn't want to die. I get it.
No,
Yep,
I
I understand.
Not at all. Yeah.
I told people to play for themselves. That's fine. I think that's what people are pissed off about. That you just didn't just come out and say, guys, I didn't want to die. It is what it is. So.
Oh, of course I don't want to die.
Yep,
Like
understood.
that's a given.
Yeah, I understand.
But this is simply Pirate
Moving forward a little bit.
how it is, justified for the out of dungeon rationalizing by him. Guild, the guild. Rose.
What, Yamato? What do you want, man?
Let me say it
He
again.
already said his piece.
Pirate.
Go on.
Yeah, I want to speak to him because I didn't speak to him correctly. I said it again. We all did mistakes, bro. Like I didn't say. We are just blaming you. It's about the zero accountability is what makes us so mad, Pirate.
There's no
You see
zero
the point?
accountability, dude. Everyone can do something
No, you-
better. But when you open up
No,
and you
you-
yell over
no,
another
listen,
person
can
like
I
you were doing,
speak?
Nah, I'm good.
You joined.
This is what people miss, because this isn't the loud, bombastic, ha ha ha, laugh at him being a roach, he failed dire moment. This moment here in the call between himself, Tyler 1, and Yamato's blade is the actual reason why all of this happens. This conversation is frame control, where Pirate wants to get something off of his chest to Yamato's blade. Because the thing that people do not understand is that before any of this shit was happening, not even attached to his ninja loot situation, not even just attached to the punishment that he was supposed to receive for it that he was sharding in the arena to escape death from as his punishment for the bullshit that happened after PirateSoftware went on crashing out against the people that chose to antagonize him off camera, on camera, in guild, out of guild, and then specifically the people who then targeted OnlyFans to because of the involvement of the situation, specifically to DDoS them. Yamato's blade's never-ending poking and refusal to actually communicate, both before in the first attempt, then the actual failure that was heard around the internet, which was the second attempt, no matter how many times it was broken down, whether from Zeke Lol, the head mage in the guild, or from others like Lakari, or even from others that could have done it. And I'm pretty sure mine was in a recording that I threw away somewhere that was supposed to go for a single individual video, or the analyses that I did from Sodahoppin's viewpoint when he conversed about this afterwards, let alone from the Molten Core raids involving Lolcow and the raid that was done by that was done by Tyler 1, where he then crashed out against all of the people who took their yucks and yums against Pirate, but then were running like fucking roaches for the hill during the raid call. And the best one so far, at least that I am satisfied with, being the deep dives that were done by Dev, only because he was willing to do the extra work, but there's still things he skipped over, which is why I'm not completely happy with it. The never-ending conversation, where frame control was being used by Yamato's blade to harass him, and him being done with it, was the same thing that was being done in the conversation concerning the behavior of him to everyone else on the internet. Which is why the frame control bit is important. Because the frame control is where PirateSoftware desired to control the narrative. So, after Pirate had this happen, but before the interview, there was a series of content. Yes, I hear it, but if I keep turning it on and off, it won't go off by itself, so I have to let it play out. Actually, no, I can just put it in a different room of the house. 1 second.
Alright, chat, say nit! I'm just kidding. I wouldn't do that to Carl. I wouldn't actually do it. I make the joke all the time, but I wouldn't actually do it. I mean, come on. Come on. Share stream.
So,
Share stream.
Software, why does it always pull up the other channels instead of pulling his channel up first? Every time. Even right now. Jesus Christ. I want the man's channel.
Nobody cares about his channel. They care about everybody else.
Literally, the first top... chat, you can see this on the screen. The first top reactions. Dolan Dark, Quinn Theo, me, Asmongold Clips, Quinn Theo again, Trosh Shife Says, then his channel.
Sucks to suck, my dude.
He would make a series of responses specifically tailored about his reactions of the things happening to him that was titled something different than this, but he has now decided to retitle anything for clout.
Now for the next one.
Each one has sections specifically referring to each of the controversies people wanted to use against him. Moldavia's victory, the Asmongold connection, Heartbound, Ash's Canation, calling him a Nepo baby, claiming that his voice is fake, him supposedly cheating in games, and his final words. Instead of actually addressing any person live on broadcast, and instead of actually doing anything necessary to address his problems, he specifically wanted to only speak on what he was interested in talking about. Period. And this frame control came to a head with the conversation done with Mr. K. Because when Dr. K had this conversation with him, and this is the only time it's been relevant since, the entire narrative fell apart. Because the thing that's obvious to me, and we're going to cover it when you look at the other material that has happened since with Stop Killing Games, especially with his responses to Ross, Thor is more concerned with the fallout and keeping, I will call them ferrets simply because I don't know what he actually calls the fans of his chat. The ferrets of his chat room docile and satisfied, than actually addressing the shit that's actually important. I believe there are multiple shorts that I've already done, with either side conversation references or call-outs about this type of behavior. But pretty much any attempt for attention and calls for action in his chat whenever he's asked questions about what are people upset about have been along the lines of, don't worry about it, let the mods handle it. I'm not going to respond to it. Any responses I've already done, you can put this message in chat and this message in chat. And every time since, including some examples that I've used on Twitter myself, including a saved video that I have on hand, has been attempting to beat other people to the punch and also avoiding actual conversation. which then leads us to this part of the conversation and Dev's analysis of it.
I'm kind of flying by the seat of my pants.
Did you just understand me?
If we really want to get into the weeds, offering a justification while you take accountability isn't actually bad, even though I've kind of been presenting it that way this whole time. When people want to be apologized to, whether they know it or not, what they're asking is for you to confirm their mental model of you in their head. All human communication is, on some level, psychological modeling. For example, I've got a model of Naomi in my head, built with my various experiences with her over the years. When I want to talk to her, I check what I want to say by feeding it into the Naomi model I've built. And from the model, I receive my best estimation on how the real Naomi will respond if I actually say this. We all do this constantly, anytime we talk to anybody else. It's a split-second thing that we don't even perceive as happening. And
yes, chat, that does mean that there is a tiny Carl in your head.
if you really want to get mind-fucked, when I receive a reply from the real Naomi, the model Naomi in my head has to somehow construct a model Dev inside of its head, hope that it's as close as possible to the model Dev inside of Naomi's head, and then compare its output to what the real Naomi actually told me, in order to try and understand what the real Naomi thinks that I'm thinking during this conversation. It's models all the way down. So, when somebody feels as if they're owed an apology, what's actually happening is, they have a model of the other person in their head, built up due to various experiences together. And that model is telling them, this infraction was a mistake. It wasn't malicious. For example, let's say again that you get home from work and you're tired, and then you snap at your girlfriend. When she wants an apology for that, her model of you is saying, I didn't mean it. And so she's looking for a similar statement to come from the real you. There's a few different ways to approach this conversation. You could do the standard good boyfriend thing, which is to basically say, listen, I know I snapped at you earlier, you didn't deserve that, I'm sorry. And then there's the standard bad boyfriend thing, which is to basically say, listen, I know I snapped at you earlier, you didn't deserve that, but I just got home from work, I was tired, work sucked, my boss sucked, I was just at the end of my rope, and the first thing I deal with when I get home is you in my face, and I just snapped. I'm sorry. Now, this is an apology, and everything within it is factually correct. But when your GF takes this response and gives it to her model of you, what she's going to receive from that model is basically a confirmation that although you did admit fault, this problem will keep happening because the reason behind the problem isn't going to go away.
And this is basically the structure of all conversation chains that come from Jason on the matter of his behavior. This is also the reason why before in the past, before getting correction, and by that I mean being thrown a chancho at my head every time I did it, by horror, why I make a point of separating the person from the persona, and then using the statement of persona non grata and burying to discuss the thing that's actually interesting to me versus the thing somebody brings to me to talk about. The problem here is that PirateSoftware and Jason Thor Hall are at contention with each other. Imagine it like this. There is a small Jason inside of PirateSoftware's head as a separation between himself and who he is as a broadcaster. Thor does not want to deal with the internet. He wants it gone. He wants people to get off his nuts. He wants people to go back to leaving him the fuck alone or just simply watching the content and being quiet outside of his chat room. But people aren't doing that. Either because, obviously, he's feeding the trolls, it's popular and good to make fun of him, to make content about him that will play at his emotions and annoy the piss out of him, you name it. The content creator and the person who is the content creator does not have the social battery to keep dealing with the internet. So, instead of actually addressing direct conversations in chat, he is filibustering all of his behavior to a secondhand resource. He's not going to talk to his chat room. He's not going to talk to people directly. He's going to put his blog statement, and any person who pushes past that barrier, he's going to basically remove them from sight. Because, hey, they're going to his platforms. He controls who gets spoken to and who can speak. I've actually already made a short about this. Let's watch.
I'm going to be real with you. I think that a lot of the times content creation is really, and the way that it's hard is because people are always biting at each other.
He is 100% correct. I was talking about this literally with my chat room on my yapping yesterday. There used to be rules on the internet for the rules of engagement. Now it's all full of chaos gremlins and cow tippers, who they themselves are AIDS pigs, just like Thor is an AIDS pig. He is 100% a person who talks out the side of his neck. And, unfortunately, he's currently the victim of a jerkwave. That he brought on himself, but he's right.
And whether you like Asmongold or not, there are very few times where I've ever felt that he was uncharitable towards me, which is nice, right?
Now, you might wonder, why the fuck in the middle of his own short does he try to talk about Asmongold? Well, chat, that's the frame control. In his mind, he is unconcerned with talking to us. You know, the small people. He is only concerned with talking to the big fish. He doesn't want to just simply talk to himself. He wants to have a conversation directly to Asmongold. And then, with executive choice by fiat, the internet will agree with his opinion because Asmongold agrees with his opinion. We deal with this type of bullshit all the time. What? You say you don't agree with my opinion, but doesn't your favorite content creator agree with me? Why are you disagreeing with your favorite content creator? This is why I tell you all, even though that you should be good at single-player Carl, that does not mean you need to become single-player Carl. You can understand the tactics, you can understand the language, you can understand my vocabulary, both adopted, invented, and reconstructed. But that does not mean you become me personally. That doesn't mean you copy my antics and actions. And that doesn't mean you use me as your justification to say, well, Carl said that it's fine, so I'm going to do it anyways. And this is also the biggest problem with size queens. Because he's only interested in talking directly to a person, he cares more about the fact that a bigger content creator basically didn't immediately take the opportunity to make the content route. Because as we all should know, sometimes you're the farmer, sometimes you're the milk and crop. Sometimes it's a bumper crop, and sometimes there's ergot in the wheat. But the fact of the matter is, he cares more about the fact that he's getting agreement from the Asmongold farms as much as he could be getting fair concern, fair criticism, and a fair shake deal from Carwich Farm. And Carwich Farm remembers that this bitch has tax liens on his property. But if I mention said emotional or social tax liens, now I'm a bad person. I'm just one of the rest of them that will do anything for clout. They don't deserve success. They're just using me to punch up their content because they don't have the ability to actually make content. Yap, 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 yap. All frames control. Specifically, so, hey chat, don't listen to that person. They're a toxic shitter streamer. They're gonna go fucking under. We're gonna choke them out of content. We're gonna bury them. We won't react to them. Only listen to what I have to say. This attitude bit him in the ass, big time. Not just because of the pushback from Dr. K, but specifically once it got to the point that he started getting pushback directly from the event that we all saw on camera. It created this parallax, where if it didn't come from, recently, Charlie, Josh Strife Hayes, Asmongold, or another figure who's not known in the sphere of video game content or editing or coding or popularity contests. So, people in the sphere of things like the WL community and Boggers community, such as OTK, Extra Emily, Senna, Agent Double X, Agent Double O, or even the AMP community amongst people like Speed and Kai and Rukai, or even DDG. He is only concerned if you're a big figure who's probably north of 500k, and if you will agree with him directly on camera, and talk to him directly on camera. So, of those people, just using his own content, don't take my word for it, take the word of the content that's actually there on his channel about it. That means, of the people he wants to see, or be seen with, or be heard by, he specifically wants to talk to people like Asmongold. He specifically wants to talk to people like... Where's the one that he did with, whatchamacallit? What's his name? Or is it only on Devin Nash's channel? Let's see if it's inside of this one. Assuming that he actually does it. No, this is not the one he does with them, so it should be on Devin Nash's channel. Yes, so he's willing to talk to people like Devin Nash, not just once about the Twitch adpocalypse, which definitely did happen and was another take that he was bad about and wrong on, but that was 7 months ago. It was eclipsed by OnlyFans too. but also includes the conversation that he then had about him with how he grew on Twitch with his content and views, or when he did his interview with the creative director of Ashes of Creation. These are the people that he wants to talk to. These are the people that he's interested in talking to. He doesn't want to talk to me. He doesn't want to talk to you. He doesn't want to talk to Horror. He wants to talk to Kit Boga. He wants to talk to the developers of Exhibition 33. And sure, on some level we can say it's because he's putting out content. And, fill the space with things to do so that people aren't distracted and don't have idle hands. Because it's the devil's plaything. But this need to talk directly to only big figures, never actually conversing with anybody who's underneath him, ignoring their opinion entirely, saying that if they've ever had a negative opinion about him, that they must be a part of the movement, to the point that he would then start actively deleting content, actively lying about the content, and then pretending that he was an innocent victim who's just being re-victimized again. It's bullshit. It's 100, 1,000% bullshit. So, to this edge, this then brings us further into the future to the reaction from Stop Killing Games. Let's start first from Ross's reaction. Do a couple of the things that he said, as well as the chat from Josh's viewpoint, and then going back over again from Ross's viewpoint, as well as the viewpoint from Charlie. Do you happen to have an opinion about it, Horror?
I don't.
Okay.
It's all retarded.
It is.
It's all super gay and super retarded.
But it's unfortunately been elevated to a point where we actually have to speak about it. And, of course, there's other people who know as well. But, so, let's start here.
Best take you've seen from the drama has been Josh Strife Hayes. I agree. He was the only one that I really enjoyed talking to about the entire thing. To be completely real with you, I completely agree with the take that Josh Strife Hayes has, which is there's a number of people online that don't give a shit about the initiative whatsoever. They just want a reason to attack me because they don't like me. That's it. So they've co-opted that movement to turn it into a reason to tell me to kill myself and attack our rescue and go after our moderators and everything like this. And
Pause. That is self-victimizing speech. However, the first thing he said, 100% true. The reality of it, chat, when you look at the actual site numbers, Stop Killing Games lost its momentum. And only because people chose to ride the jerkwave and made Thor the villain of the month / year / event until Stop Killing Games becomes irrelevant once it's gone and past, no matter what happens, win or lose or draw. The only reason why Stop Killing Games is back where it is because, assuming we're in the dimension where this is actually a 1,000% brain move and, haha, actually you fell for my trick. I made all of you do what I wanted. I actually want games to live. I want to actually do it right now. And using you all, I was able to make it support. It's a cafe by everybody involved. Everybody clap. Everybody clap.
I would probably go absolute crash out levels of pissed if that was the case.
I would laugh only because that would then explain, or at least be an example of an explanation, as to why he only wanted to talk to big figures. If he gives the game away and says, guys, I don't actually care. None of this shit matters to me. I mean, I'm gonna ban the people who are gonna tell me and my moderators who are telling you to kill them, to kill themselves, and to wish death on me. I'm gonna ban all those people. But all of the other shit, I just have to endure. I just have to endure. Because if that were the case, if that's the alternate dimension we're currently living in, that would be the craziest fucking scam cathabe of the century, specifically to demonstrate the power of consumer revolt. Because I've been hearing words recently this week across the majority of the internet about this is the new Gamergate. Stop that shit right now. No, it's not.
Please, dear God, no Gamergate 5.0.
Fucking Christ.
Please, no.
Just no. People wanted to jump on to Stop Killing Games for the same reason people wanted to jump onto OnlyFans 2. For the same reason people wanted to jump onto Moldova's victory. Hell, I'll even... Foggy! I'm aiming at you right now!
It is even the same reason. Is it still up or is it behind members? Wait. I know it's alive. I'm not seeing it. No, this is one of them, but it's a video. I know it's a video. Where is it? He might have changed it. There was one where he was doing a fan fiction read of his furry ERP. Oh, that's right here. No, it's right here. Haha. Even people reading the furry ERP, it's the same reason. People wanted to stick it to him.
Believe it or not.
And they wanted to embarrass and make fun of him. That's like full on end of.
Best take you've seen.
People wanted to fuck with him because it pleased them to watch him suffer. Even if not physically, but emotionally, mentally, and financially. Realistically, this is not going to make him suffer financially. He's going to make a lot more money off the people who may or may not be forced to watch ads, assuming that they're going to Twitch directly and they're not going to YouTube. Because the people who are getting the clips and the VODs and the highlights directly, it's for the same reason his bullshit accusation that he's put on the other week or so was bullshit. We'll have to go find that one. But let's continue on here first.
And go after our moderators and everything like this. And while I don't hold any ill will against the SKG movement because of those idiots, I refuse to talk about it because of them. And you could...
That is not the reason why. Originally, as we all knew, as well as it is inside of the End of Stop Killing Games content, all of the responses that were specifically designed against PirateSoftware and his non-stop desire to shit on this game was made specific and clear by his desire to literally drag it through the mud, because, direct quote, not only am I going to not support this, I'm actively going to do everything I can to make sure it does not happen.
If we're trying to kill off the practice...
This is the one.
Let's talk about the action.
See the get bigger
in a functional playable system.
is
Player games. It is vague.
Why?
I'm trying to find the exact second. I had timestamps, but for some reason my document didn't save the timestamps. Some of them.
The level. I think this is ass. That's a really stupid ass move.
There we go. It's this entire section here.
Not only do I not want to back this, I'm going to actively tell people not to. That is awful. That is a horrible goddamn direction. That's awful, dude. No, eat my entire ass. The level of stupid that I just had to receive was like sitting on Twitter for 12 hours. This shit sucks. That's a really stupid ass move. That's an incredibly stupid ass move.
So, it's an entirely long supercut that people have had since forever of PirateSoftware's opinion and how he feels about the content. The fact of the matter is that what Thor says and what he means and what he wants people to take from his words are completely dependent on whether or not he believes he's being recorded.
Clip that and send it to Josh Strafe Hayes, because he moderators and everything like this. And while I don't hold any ill will against the SKG movement because of those idiots, I refuse to talk about it because of them. And you could clip that and send it to Josh Strafe Hayes, because he'd totally understand. I shit-talked Ross Scott, and I apologized for that on Twitter.
You didn't need to apologize for it on Twitter, Jason. You needed to apologize to him publicly in a conversation, not a debate, but a conversation featuring other content creators. Probably a 3-on-1 between Ross, Charlie, and Josh, and you speaking to the three of them, and actually allowing them to be the ones that would then ask the questions. Because this is actually what the internet wanted. It's not just you choosing to spurn in an alternate dimension single-player Carl. It's not just you spurning the entire public and refusing to say a positive word, let alone a neutral word, let alone a neutral or a positive apology, the way that people demanded of you. It was your inability to accept that the things that you said not only were false, not only were wrong, were not only wrong to the point that the document is there physically behind you, showing you as such that the thing you're saying isn't fucking true, because you want to be right to the point that you cannot understand what they're fighting for. You wanted desperately
to make other people bend to your will, not the other way around.
I got emotional, and I attacked him as a person instead of his ideals. And I
No, you did both.
apologized for that. I was completely in the wrong for doing so. A lot of people didn't see that apology, so they still think that I'm doubling down on that in some way.
Yes, because it wasn't done public where it needs to be. Another thing that I say all the fucking time. If the fucking behavior and the fault is loud, the apology also needs to be loud. You disrespected him and annoyed him and pissed him off in public. You attacked him in public. You attacked other people in public. And then you hide behind Twitter fucking posts? Twitter posts that you then lock down responses to. We'll get to that one soon as well. Yeah, that's definitely what people are going to accept, bro. Wonderful.
But you're completely correct. I should not have done that. I should not have gone after him as a person. Yep. And they ignored it when I said, I'm sorry. But, yeah, what are you going to do? It's the internet. Thanks, PatchDev. And that's totally fine. If you want to disagree with me, there's nothing wrong with that. I have no issues with that whatsoever.
That is a lie. If you disagree with him in chat room and you do not use his commands that bring you to the anything for clout video, the moderators or Thor himself directly will mute you, time you out, and then depending on the quote severity of the message that you left, where a lol bro still angry, still seething 7 years of mana might get you a suspension for 3 months to a year, going as far as Moldovia's fig tree, blah 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 blah, slur against furry, can get you banned permanently.
It's just people being dicks that I have a problem with, man. I think the best conversation I've had about it was with Josh Strife Hayes, out of everyone. Because he disagrees with me, but we were able to have a normal conversation where he understood my side of it, I understood his side of it, and we disagreed with each other. We just had a normal conversation. It was nice. Dude kicks ass. Good human. Yeah. That's rare these days. Josh is a good dude. Yeah. He's a good dude. Oh, yeah, no, if you don't know Josh Strife Hayes, you should check out his content on YouTube, dude. Dude's hilarious. He's a good guy. It's just nice being able to have a level-headed conversation with someone, even when you disagree. You can acknowledge you were wrong about stop killing games? No, I have a perspective on it as a developer. I've put that out on a tweet. 2 tweets, actually. I've put out 2 videos 10 months ago. The only thing I was wrong about is in the way that I treated Ross. I should not have been emotional about that, and so I apologized for it.
Notice, he does not mention recent updates or responses to the recent update, even though there has been. We'll get to that later as well. He specifically says, my response from 10 months ago, I was wrong for how I chose to speak directly to him as a person, as his character, not the nature of what he said. Specifically, you don't understand what I understand because I'm coming at this from a developer's point of view. For a video on that, I can get that directly from the other Frost, because as I am the type of developer that he is, my perspective that I gave on my live stream is exactly the one that he claims that other people aren't getting, which is the dev position of people think, or in his mind, in the fabrication of his simulacrum of everybody else. He believes that Ross and the people who are signing Stop Killing Games want to hold developers to permanently develop games forever. And that's obviously not the case. They want, at best, a end-of-life plan that creates a peer-to-peer system. If not a living, single-player, one-part online multiplayer, but not all the versions of content that were there during the era of gameplay, in the form of a private server-esque environment. So, if you're going to allow something like MapleStory, if KMS and GMS were ever supposed to ever go offline, and I decided that I wanted to make a GMS server for everybody who plays on Twitter, as well as those that are inside of my audience, inside of the Carl MapleStory server, it could be pre-Big Bang, it could be post-Big Bang, it could be pre-Hero, post-Hero, pre-Xeon, post-Xeon, or any of the other classes that have been added since I stopped playing that game. They want a state of the game that exists in a form of perpetuity where the other content is still playable, still accessible, and still relevant, but still is accessible without the server being ran by the company. The content that I used to explain that was Knockout City. Knockout City does not require you to do a single goddamn thing. Knockout. You can get the game right now on Steam, and before, where you would have had to use techniques such as Hamachi and port forwarding, the same way that you would for a self-hosted game on something like Terraria or Don't Starve Together, you can instead set up a private server environment as a dedicated server for you and your friends to play the video game. All of the content is there. It's all there. You don't have to pay for a single fucking thing. You just press play, it goes into your server requirements, you start game, you decide if you're going to join or you're going to host, boom, done. The comparative system that would have been like this would have been from the 80s and 90s. The game system that allowed for online players to do PvP matchmaking for things like Heroes of Might and Magic, which was called GameSpy. This, unfortunately, has not been an argument that Thor has used. And we'll get into that later as well. But understand, as I said before on that broadcast, and as I'm repeating here again, the thing that he says isn't possible is literally already happening. This isn't the only game that does it, and private servers for video games aren't the only game that do it as well. But, for some reason, this is just the argument that he has, and this is the perception he wants you to believe.
That's about it. And if you don't like the things that I said, then you need to find a way... No. If you don't like the things that I said, then you need to refute them without trying to attack me as a person and telling me to kill myself. And if
tone policing.
You can't do that, then you probably shouldn't be talking.
And telling you specifically, if you don't say it the way that I want, I'm going to ignore what you have to say and decide that you're just as bad as everybody else. You can't have a conversation. Go ahead.
In other words, I'm a pussy. I don't want to talk to anybody who might scare me. I might piss my pants.
Yes. It doesn't matter if the person that does it emotionally and passionately, like I could. It doesn't matter if the person were to be completely deadpan and said, bro, I don't fucking care. I think the behavior you're doing is fucking stupid and gay. All of you are gay, but you're the biggest, gayest queen of them all, like you, or anybody else that feels that way. It doesn't matter if they have made content about it, and they have basically farmed him, like Asmongold, that as long as you change the words that need to be said to a version that he's willing to accept that doesn't actually demand him to actually take accountability and responsibility and agency and stop pretending that he is somehow a harmed victim that can't figure out the difference between I think your opinion is wrong and I also think that your unwillingness to be truthful is wrong and I think your aversion to be forward-facing and front-facing is wrong, isn't the same as, I don't like you, I don't like your attitude, I don't like your content, but I don't think it's acceptable for you to have people wish death on you, but I also don't think it's acceptable for you to dismiss people's opinions because you don't like the person who said it, and you think the person who's, quote, beneath you, which is another problem entirely, somehow is missing information or is just wrong about something that on the page is as simple as 2 + 2 = 4 because 1 + 1 = 2, and you did the equivalent of saying, no, what are you talking about? 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2. 1 + 1 = 3. You stupid fucking loser. What's wrong with you, bro? Bro, are you serious, bro? Bro's
Cult of personality.
It's so maddening because as was demonstrated with the list of games that then was scrolled on the screen by Ross when he got to the section where he discusses this. Basically, all of the games that currently exist, from ones that I play or have played, including the one that started the movement, which was The Crew, he would say this is acceptable for that game, Exile 1 and 2, Destiny 1 and 2, Diablo 3, Diablo Immortal, although let's be deadass and real, nobody gives a fuck about Diablo Immortal. That was a fucking cinematic abortion between the company of Activision, Blizzard, and King before they were acquired by Microsoft and became ABKM. That was a demonstrative of the kind of content that we actually wish would actually die. Diablo 4, Fallout 76, hell, even Warframe, Ashes Creation, and so on. This mindset where you have to play and walk on permanent eggshells because he is too big a fucking pussy to just accept, hey, I can communicate passionately, and I can say words, and while you might not like those words, if you dismiss my argument the same way that you say, well, I'm upset because the way you said it triggered me, shut the fuck up. You aren't made for this conversation anymore. It doesn't even have to involve your opinion anymore. But because you're the person that it faunted off of, we have to talk to you and about you. Because through you was why this was possible. And unfortunately, to map your behavior, your reactions, your discussion, we can't get it from anybody else. We can only get it from your emotions. We can only get it from your responses. If we go off of what you said, because we don't have to go to you for color commentary, your behavior reads like you can't accept the fact that anyone can light you up for this. No matter if there's a person who's literally unknown versus a person who is known. And that's fucking Lolcow worthy. That itself alone is Lolcow worthy. Everything else that has happened because you get emotional about it, and then because you're emotional, and maybe the other person is passionately emotional, you decide, I'm going to wash my hands of all of it, fuck all of you. They're going to end up beating your ass in the comment section.
That's about it. Who's Ross? The leader of the Stop Killing Games movement. The one who initiated it. I said a bunch of negative shit about him because I was emotionally charged in the situation.
No addressal about the words he said about the movement, and no admittance to the fact that he said, I have made it my movement and my goal to make sure that your movement dies in the water.
And I should not have done that. I don't like the initiative as it is, but attacking him as a person is not acceptable. So I apologize for it. And I did on Twitter. Made it public. And I did that after talking to Josh Strife Hayes, because he called me out on it, and he was right. Good character development.
Josh is not the only person who called him out. We'll get there, chat. Don't worry.
For PirateSoftware, dude, you have to understand. Like, I'll admit when I'm wrong, when I feel that I'm wrong. But if I don't feel that I'm wrong and you do, that doesn't mean I owe you an apology, right?
Also, keep abreast of the knowledge. In the top left corner of this video, Josh is basically counting the amount of times in which his name is mentioned about Stop Killing Games in participation to his rebuttal and refutal of the arguments made against him. Conversations that were done off camera, so we don't have access to it, except for the fact that they talked about it on their own perspective content, and Charlie was the most expressive of his distaste of Pirate's behavior.
Just because you're upset doesn't mean I owe you an apology. And
rewind.
I'll admit when I'm wrong, when I feel that I'm wrong. But if I don't feel that I'm wrong and you do, that doesn't mean I owe you an apology, right? Just because you're upset doesn't mean I owe you an apology. And that's something that a lot of people don't seem to understand on the internet.
Let's rewind that one and play that one again.
Development for PirateSoftware, dude, you have to understand. Like, I'll admit when I'm wrong, when I feel that I'm wrong. But if
I'll admit when I'm wrong, when I feel that I'm wrong.
If I don't feel that I'm wrong and you do, that doesn't mean I owe you an apology.
But if I don't feel that I'm wrong and you do, then I don't owe you an apology. Right there. That's the reason why he left that call from Yamato's Blade. I don't have to bend my knees to you. You bend your knees to me. I'm the bigger figure. I decided that I'm not at fault. So why should I apologize? Just because you said so?
Right? Just because you're upset doesn't mean I owe you an apology. And that's something that a lot of people don't seem to understand on the internet. That's not a double down. That's called standing for what I believe in. And
it's not a double down when I choose to be negative about my reaction, and I decide that I'm going to decide when it's allowed to be spoken to, and I'm going to decide what happens when and how, not reading the situation and reading the room, or, as a proper leader, giving a blow-by-blow of what was said and done, and having conversations done in the open. No, instead, it's me rebutting emotionally and stepping into the frame of what April Byrne's saying about me. People think that I'm a narcissist. So I'm instead going to act like a narcissist instead of completely saying, you know what? You're absolutely right. In fact, Big Dick Chatter, Big Cheese Fungus number 679, get in this chat room. I want to have a personal conversation with you. That's not happening. That's not ever going to happen. Not especially considering that any person who jumps onto the bandwagon for the jerk wave could be able to get views off of it if they want to be aggressive enough with what they want to say and do. Because basically right now, you have to thread the needle. You have to be anti-PirateSoftware, but you can't be pro-Ludwig. If you're pro-Ludwig and Offkai Games and anti-PirateSoftware, you're not going to get support from the movement. You have to be anti-PirateSoftware, pro-Stop Killing Games, anti-Ludwig, and just a little bit of wiggle room for Moldova's victory. If you're willing to hit all of those angles, you'll benefit highly off this.
And if you can't do that, you just think that's a double down, we got nothing to talk about. The apology, Ross, was the only thing needed? Yeah, and I gave that. A lot of people won't say that that's enough. They'll want an apology in their way, or specifically some language, grovel on your knees kind of shit, but I apologize, and then I'm fine with that.
Context. The only thing that I would want, if it was me, if I was God, and I had to be the one to step in and say, this is gay, all I want him to do is I want him to actually have a public conversation. I want him to have a public conversation and say to Ross's face, I apologize. This was wrong. This is never acceptable. All of this happened because of my antics towards you and everyone's energy trying to make me do this back then, and that energy came from there and followed us all the way through to here. I could have stopped it back here if I apologized, but because I didn't then, they're demanding I do now. So I'm going to apologize for you and for that as well, because this was bullshit from me and that was bullshit from me. I'm sorry that I let people bring that out in me. I'm sorry that you became the target of my annoyance from them over here, because that wasn't okay, this wasn't okay. If it doesn't happen live on camera, it doesn't fucking matter, because you did this shit on camera. The slight and the offense was loud, so the apology has to be loud. Doing it in private isn't going to matter, because the problem here comes from public perception. The only way that people stop is if other figures ask them to stop as well, because they were in the call and they were in the room when it happened. And only in the agreeance of these content creators that were there to have the conversation will they leak the part where he does it. And then people say, oh shit, I can't believe it. Oh my god, he does have a soul. Oh my god, he does understand. And then everybody laughs at him, points their fingers, and then they fucking take their kite, they take their balls, and they go home.
There is a Valve employee that agrees with you? Cool. There's also a lot of other developers that reached out to me in DMs, and they're afraid to talk about it publicly, because when I spoke out against it, the mob went and downvoted my video game into oblivion to 10% positive.
This is a lie. I will show you examples of why this is a lie. It is so much a fucking lie that we have to literally say, "Hey, yo, bro, where's the fucking like? Is the downvote in the room with us? Because it's not in the room with us. Where is the button? Where is it? I didn't post it that far long ago. Not that one. 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 Not to the twin. Not that one. Where's the goddamn shit? I had it here. It's in my bookmarks.
You got way too much shit.
I have a lot
You
of
ain't
stuff.
gonna find nothing in there.
Here we go. This isn't even the ones that has my porn folder. You ain't seen nothing.
I don't want to see that.
So, right here. These are the things that he's saying are the downvotes. These are not downvotes. These are people giving proper reviews. This is Aethermancer Demo. This is Bonnie Bear Saves Frog Time. This is Aether 2. We can also go Rivals of Aether, where people claim that it's being view-bombed on stream. There's also the other one that is associated with Offkai. They're not being downvoted. At all.
No. It would kind of be nice if they actually provided receipts when they make claims like that, but they never do.
Nah, not at all.
Attacked the shit out of our business, and then went after the company Off-Brand Games that I work with, and attacked all the games that they were doing.
So, your response to this, Pirate, was to leave the company, which is retarded. I can go there for that one, because that one I actually did post the other night.
I'm rolling my eyes so hard at that, you know. It's just so fucking cringe and so fucking stupid.
Also note, ladies and gentlemen, while it is possible to do these things, know that, for one, PirateSoftware has personally been going through, either with a bot or in other means, and has been blocking people. So he has noticed people's responses. He's definitely noticed mine. Before, it was just impossible to be able to post, because you couldn't be able to retweet this, and it is possible that you probably maybe would be able to like this. Anybody here who can just simply go to this post can be able to test this for themselves and see if that is the case. But currently at this time, any forward-facing, a front-facing take, and any forward-facing response made by PirateSoftware has been comments locked down and paused, retweets locked down and paused. No one's been allowed. No one's been allowed to get a direct response from him. It has only ever been, here's what I'm saying, here's what you're doing, blah 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 blah, yap 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 yap.
Because he's a bitch. Because he's a bitch.
They try to cancel culture literally everything that I touch, instead of attacking the argument that I have. So of course devs don't want to say anything publicly.
Pause. That's not the reason why. Even Ross's original opinion, the first thing that he said, is that a lot of the potential momentum for the movement was killed in the ground when PirateSoftware said what he said. Because 10 months ago, PirateSoftware, Jason Thor Hall, had the gamer mandate of heaven. Just like how before people realized how much of the act man is an act snake. Even he had the gamer mandate of heaven. Oh, well, this guy was funny. Oh, what's that? The guy he made fun of who tried to delete his views about Elden Ring got mad and called his mom. Wow, what a loser. Hey, what's that? The act man wanted to make fun of this guy that was bald about Starfield. What a loser. Whiny baby. He's a whiny thumb baby head of a man. What's that? That guy was trying to go through third-party liaison to make fun of Healed versus Babyface. Not actually attacking his opinion, but attacking him and his content. Oh, what's that? He decided he now knows what SPI is, and he's decided to turn the other cheek to do the grift about SPI detected. Oh, what's that? He's trying to relitigate his problems again. Oh, the third-party agent that was talking between him and Az was actually Mahler, and now everybody knows that he was willing to do all this shit publicly because he assumed nobody had the context. Wow, what a bitch. It's the same bullshit. People didn't want to speak up because big fish take little fish. Big bank take little bank. Who am I to speak against him? He's PirateSoftware, and I'm just insert your name here. The developers know who you are, and they saw how they were being told, well, this is the fear that I have about the game. And sure, maybe there's a handful of them that said, wow, they're really harassing the shit out of him. But in reality, what they saw was not what was addressed because no one asked the devs what their opinion was. The devs didn't even offer it. And for those that did put it somewhere, like Substack, the conversation didn't include that perspective. People had to go out of their way to find those developers that did it. Ironically enough, Archer, somebody who I've already spoken to, the developer of Soul Ash 1 and 2, he's actually been on top of PirateSoftware and also got blocked by PirateSoftware because his refusal to stand his ground and leave Off-Kai Games to try and, quote, appease people to protect the Off-Kai employees was a mistake, because congratulations, you fed the trolls, dumbass. But also, he never actually tried to open up the conversation for his opinion, because he never addressed why devs feel the way they do. He just simply bullshitted his way through it. It wasn't until Ross put his opinions on camera that people actually knew what PirateSoftware's real opinion from the dev perspective, in his words, was. They all basically saw one of the, quote, true blue developers get his shit pushed in for being toxic, and they said, this is toxic waste. We can't give our opinion. Because the moment that we do, this is going to be a problem. That's why when people said the conversations about the movement and about the industry have already happened, I know there's a very good take from good, air quote. There's a very good take about this from Valor Games that is a part of some of the reactions that was had specifically from not PirateSoftware, but from Asmongold on the issue that people are getting that opinion from. I come to my own conclusion on this, but for the example that I'll use when we get to the section from the other Frost, from Frost of Riviera, it is very clear that the developers were having a conversation amongst themselves. And when independent sources like me or Frost came to them and asked them why they feel how they feel, that is when the conversation was opened and had. At no point in time did Thor take it upon himself to be the face of all of the devs. So this Ross positions himself as the leader saying, I am all of the consumers. And PirateSoftware phrasing his behavior and himself as, and I am all of the devs, is bullshit.
They download your game, go look at it. It's at 10% positive. It's the entire forum on that is filled with people who got banned because they were just shitting in it. It's
Now, there are people who did go to subreddits and said, because I gave a review about the DRM state of protection for the game in a single analysis, that person was banned from the Game Hub. And it was a personal ban from either the moderators or PirateSoftware themselves. That was a singular user. Maybe there were people who were getting banned because they were spamming 7 years of mana. But one person choosing to give an analysis of his own opinion using tools that did not break it, did not brick it, did not hack it, and he didn't steal it, and being banned away from it is very sus.
crazy, dude. They went after Rivals of Aether 2 because I work for Off-Brand Games. Even though it has nothing to do with it. They tried to state that Heartbound had freaking always online functionality in it, which it doesn't. It's a single-player offline video game.
This is a lie. The DRM system behind his video game is tied to Steam achievements. He believes that the Steam achievement system is enough of a way to use the game's system memory as a checkpoint. Basically, they're quest flags. When you proceed to a certain part of the game, your internal cloud data reloads your data based on an internal password that is communicated from the communication of what was on your cloud save versus the achievements that you have. The test shows that it didn't need to have this as a DRM state because there is no chatter, there is no conversation data that is transmitted from when you open the game to when you close the game that is coming from the server itself. It is in truth a single player game, but for some reason it has a virtual machine line inside of its code that is trying to ping back to the Steam user DRL server as a DNS request for where your save data is. It's really stupid, it's really jank. There are multiple videos that go over the code about this. Some of them are more roasting how, quote, amateurish the code block he's writing the script in is. I'm only telling you the part that's actually relevant. As this was the internal breakdown of that information that came from the individual user and their assessment of the DRM that he associated with his game.
It's insane, dude. You can lose your job over it. You want to know something funny? Off-Brand pays me minimum wage. Do you know why? I tried to get paid nothing. I just want to help the industry to do better in terms of publishing. And the first thing that I did when I got there was change our contracts so that we don't own any of the rights to people's games that we publish. The second thing that I started doing is working on all of the pricing, or all the regional pricing for everything, to make sure that countries like Poland, Australia, and Brazil don't get shit on like they always do.
Oh, you're such a good guy. You're so virtuous, Thor. You're so good. Oh.
This is a point of contention with a lot of his content, as this is something that he has to effectively do. Even if it's just for good looks, even if we're still in the alternate dimension where he's trying to maximize his optics, publicly he has said multiple times that when he discovered a problem with the price points of games in other countries, comparative to where they were coming from in America, he would actively go inside the back end, and he would lower the price for that country. The same way that people were concerned with the countries that were being removed from the block state, from blocked territories, in preparation of Helldivers coming to Xbox, which was one of the reasons they did that for, amongst other things that they were doing for development. It is also in his prerogative to do so, because that is one way to ensure that piracy remains low, so people's systems don't get bricked from pirated versions of his game that have crack teams that are putting malware in whatever saves they have, which, bro, they didn't even put malware inside of the copy that I used to play fucking Dustborn. Who the fuck is putting malware in your fucking video game downloads, bro? But
ain't nobody.
Even then, sure, you lowered the price on things. And yes, you made sure that something that is very highly contentious and litigious, that exists even inside of the lifetime, they're not even lifetime subscription anymore. They're actually monthly subscriptions for things like Adobe and Blender. Don't allow for the Adobe company, or whoever owns the copyright to it. Adobe, Magix, that's Magic with an X. They're the people who currently own the copyright of the prosumer program Vegas. It used to be Sony Vegas, but now it's just Vegas Pro. And other such companies that use some type of creative suite. Adobe for all of its suites, the suites for things like Final Shot Pro Edit, your video suite editors, etc. All of those suites and all the people who have to write down or agree to an active paid subscription or a one-time purchase lifetime licensing of the product for your specific computer activation security key, or even for Microsoft Office. Yes, making sure that they own their own product and that it isn't back-ended as being under your licensing, that's very nice. That doesn't undo the fact that you're a horrible fucking asshole when it comes to how you choose to speak to people. Who the fuck cares?
That's what I did for Rivals of Aether. That was the whole point for that. That's why I'm director of strategy for them. And when the company started having a downsizing thing, because we had a whole business collapse with money because of the stuff that happened with Ludwig, where he lost $3 million.
But let's not talk about Ludwig and his inability to keep up with money, let alone him throwing his friends like Mango on the bus. And people trying to actively tell me, no, Carl, no, you don't understand. You have a bad take about that. Different broadcast. Yes, sure, 100%. He's still doing the bit where he's trying to explain himself out of just simply doing what he's supposed to do. Because he's adding in factors that are supposed to be a way for you to basically hold somebody by victim to, like, information. Background research. There's times I've even caught myself doing it. But it's, here's me giving you information about something. And so, the reason why you didn't know that is because this, and this, and this, and because this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this, shut up, shut your mouth. Shut your mouth. You don't need to be telling us this. Stop holding me hostage with details. Get to the fucking point.
Wild, right? With that, I was like, okay, how many people's jobs can we save? And then they were like, well, we could do this. And I was like, how many people's jobs can we save if you pay me nothing? And we were going to pay me nothing. And then legal was like, you can't, there's federal law. You can't do that. So then I was like, well, what about federal minimum wage? I have been paid federal minimum wage for like 6 months now. And I have no intention of changing that. I get paid $7.25 an hour to do that shit. And I do it because it's important to me, not because I want to make money. So anybody that's spinning that narrative is a dumb piece of shit.
Anybody who spins that narrative is a dumb piece of shit, because they don't know this little niggling detail about how I actually get paid minimum wage for something that I should want to do anyways, because I want to see the industry grow. By the way, don't you understand that if you stop me from being able to go on to other projects and leaving open the code base and basically making it open source for you to play the video games that I've worked on in the past, that you're actually just tying me to a ship and putting me in the glue factory to produce glue forever? Don't you know you're a piece of shit if you do that?
What armor suit is that? This is Fatigue Still Suit on both of these. I also don't accept any, there's no, like, stake in the company, there's no any of that shit. I don't get anything outside of that, no other compensation. Yeah. If you're upset at the way that I treated Ross, you're right. And I apologized for it on Twitter, specifically. Because I was too aggressive, I was emotional, and I acted like an asshole to him. Yep.
You are an asshole.
And that's why I apologized for it. The way that I feel about the initiative has not changed in any possible way. I still have the exact same feeling about it. And I do not like it for the wording that it uses. And that's not going to change. Was that the tweet, the one you deleted?
The wording in question that he claims is where it's, quote, not specific enough. And the reason it's not specific is because it's a fucking movement initiative. It is specifically the first exact step that gets the ball rolling, specifically for the UK. Because the way that it works is that when something is made standard for the US, China, Japan, the EU, and England, British land, the UK. Who the fuck is setting off fireworks on July 5th?
You're surprised?
No! I'm disappointed!
Bro, where I used to live, they were setting it off for like a week before and a week after. Can't do that here because it's an area that's like really prone to being on fire.
You're in public! Thank you, Yugux.
It's actually really nice not having to hear fireworks all the time.
Yeah. By the way, don't look at my streaming income, guys. I only get paid for the game dev stuff. Scout's honor. Big true, Yugux. Big true.
Big twoo. So much big twoo.
You didn't? No, I deleted that one because
Rewind. My mental capacity was discombobulated by the fucking sound of fireworks. That sounded like a TNT brand firework. Okay, so
basically your ADHD just kicked in and you lost track of where you were going.
Oh no, I know where I'm going. I needed to restart. Stun lock. They had another one. So, when a trade standard is made standard for the US, Japan, France, the EU in general, England, if not just Britain, or British consulates and territories, and for other important Emiratis relevant to Qatar and Saudi Arabia, it becomes an industry standard by default, by literal fiat. So, the movement's language, from Ross's own words in the end of Stop Killing Games, specifically in the portion about his critiques, all of that in his rebuttal against PirateSoftware, it's probably in the middle of all things. His literal reason for that is that it's not a legally binding document. And it can't be because it has to be drawn up by the lawmakers. It's like if I put together a beginning conversation, like what MatPat did with his YouTuber consulate that features a bipartisan group of politicians. He is the step and the liaison that represents all of us as content creators to the official party members of the Republicans, the Democrats, and the Independents. They don't understand our world, so they need somebody from our world that helps them guide the law so they understand the pitfalls. In the case of the Stop Killing Games initiative in the EU, their laws are not like our laws. This is an opportunity for them to bridge the gap and begin the movement on it so that they can show, yes, the consumer market in the EU is interested in defining the examples and defining the movements of shit that's important to them. They can't do that without the signatures, because they'll literally just throw that shit the fuck out, and the next time that you'll have the ability to address it will be if you are the plaintiff or defendant in court concerning the copyright and the licenses of your games. To quote Frost directly, I would rather be a line on a petition than a named claimed defendant in a court case. That's why it's vague. It's not meant to be a fully laid out plan that has a specific goal of locking developers in. It's so that they can develop what an end-of-life plan for these games, not in perpetuity, but in expectation of the future design, should this be passed and should this be negotiated, looks like. Games that already exist aren't going to get this treatment. Games that are coming out soon now, during the time of this game being, during the time of this movement being developed, and the signage being decided, isn't going to be affected. So it's not going to affect anything that's already released or is releasing soon. More than likely not even relevant to this year or even in 2026. It is specifically only relevant to the content and material to the future. So future games. If we want to be lucky and say as soon as Q1 2026, anything that is a live service game needs to come up with an end-of-life action plan towards the end of its life. But not just in the middle of development, but with a outline towards the beginning of development, presentation, marketing, licensing, selling the product, enjoying the product, and then eventually when it gets sunsetted, communicating how they go about it. So imagine that instead of the timeline that we live in, where a Redditor decided to give back the gold disk source code of StarCraft. Blizzard themselves said, listen guys, we're moving on to StarCraft 2, but we didn't forget where we came from. So here you go. Here's the source craft to Warcraft, Warcraft 2, Warcraft 3. No Warcraft Reforged, baby. Make your own content. Make another fucking Heroes of New Earth. Make a fucking Heroes of the Storm. Make a fucking, Dota 1 for all we fucking care. That is what people want. They want an end-of-life plan where instead of people like myself and members of the development team of Shin Megami Tensei Reimagine, Atlas themselves says, listen guys, we understand you guys were really a big fan of anime RuneScape. So here you go, anime RuneScape, here's the compact details, here's the SOQ libraries, here's the details and content, it's all there, it's all free. If you can figure out how to pay it and run for it on your servers, you can have fun playing the game endlessly. And here's some of the details you used to make the assets so you can make your own custom content. Literally every game that has ever existed as an MMO. No matter how small, no matter how big. From fucking Toontown to Destiny 1 and 2. That's what people want. That's what they want to set up the conversation for. At no point in time did you ever address that. You said he said something he didn't fucking say. Literally behind your head on the screen when he said it. When you said it even.
For the wording that he uses. And that's not going to change. Was that the tweet?
And you then double down saying, oh, no, it's still a crock of shit. It's still a crock of ass. That's not changing. I haven't changed how I feel about that.
What he's literally saying is, I'm gonna apologize, bro, but you're still fucking wrong, and I'm still gonna go after you because you're wrong.
It's so frustrating.
I hate it.
It's so frustrating because he knows that that's not what they did. And he knows the reason why it's not there. But because it didn't happen the way that he said it, then it's wrong.
The one you deleted? No, I deleted that one because of the amount of lashback. There's another tweet that's up there. Go look at the one that I have up right now, and then look at the...
So, right there, he just admitted something that he kept saying multiple times that he didn't do.
No, I deleted that one because of the amount of lashback. There's a...
Lashback, by the way. There is a series of tweets that he had, and a series of videos that he had, that he deleted in full context multiple times. I reposted it several times.
On top of it, I went through the Reddit for their initiative for that, and there were a number of posts in there that were people saying we should keep baiting him and attacking him, because if we do that, he'll keep talking about it, and then more people will sign the initiative. They were planning that shit. And those threads are still there. They're still up. People are still talking about that shit on there. So instead of that, I just deleted all the VODs where we were talking about it. I kept my videos up, and I walked away. They can eat shit.
Literally, he said with his voice, every single fucking time, and this clip being one of the many that he tried to delete and remove out of the way, he literally deleted the VODs every time somebody asked him a question about Stop Killing Games. He then tried to hide behind the fact that he then said, actually, don't you know that as a broadcaster, the way that Twitch works is that when you have VODs up in your channel, the content actually just, the content deletes itself because the content goes away. You guys don't understand how things work. Also, more example shit from CoCarnage as an example of how he decides to word his behavior. I need to find the example in question because it's a back and forth conversation he had with people about how he deleted things. I'm probably not going to be able to find it, but effectively, he was doing a back and forth where people were calling out the fact that he was attempting to address problems that he did not communicate at some period of time about his VODs, and said something to the effect of Twitch deletes the VODs after 90 days. Let me see if I can pull it up directly if I use advanced search. Okay, here we go.
So, here's four, actually. No, 3. There's one here that's 2023. That's not relevant. So, June 25th, here, 3:38 p.m. A conversation back and forth involving cursed farms. Been reading through all the posts against me over my stance of Stop Killing Caves initiative. Tons of people calling me a liar, blah, 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 blah. Big, giant fucking recap, but to be fair, this is the advantage of using Twitter Blue. Then, engagement from Ross. Twitch VODs auto-delete after 60 days. Any stream going over 12 hours of runtime for it on YouTube is auto-come off, and then deleted at the 16 hours of runtime due to their shitty storage system. What you proposed here is untrue and a deflection from my message. People who understand this need to know that this is very, very relevant because of the nature of the recent change that was done to Twitch, because Dan Clancy and the suite of employees that are kept there by Twitch and the board on Amazon would rather destroy the platform than fucking punish Hassan Piker. Now, threatening people publicly and doxing the wrong person live on camera with a weapon that was not identified as a BB pistol or even a fucking airsoft pistol at the time of recording, and effectively was a broadcaster waving the gun around on camera, threatening somebody's life. No automatic ban. But Nathan Bonnell gets a full permaban for effectively making a school shooter joke and then nailing Destiny with, I assume must have been a fucking Orbeez gun. That's cute.
Dude, Amazon is gonna get so pissed at this eventually and then just shut Twitch down. This is just gonna cost them way too much money.
Like, either they're going to shut Twitch down and then bring it back up and rebrand it somehow, or they have to get rid of the sweet levels of individuals. Because the only reason why the advertiser campaign was kicked off by Dan Saltman is because Twitch currently is ran privately. It's not public. If Twitch was public, this shit would have already been resolved a long time ago. Because then they would have a fiduciary duty. But they don't have a fiduciary duty since the stocks are private. I would love to hear the Bob Iger-esque calls from people who would have had stocks in Twitch. But they're all fucking crazy leftists, so that is what it is. But Twitch VODs do in fact have an auto-delete feature. If you are an affiliate, they auto-delete after about 14 days. If you are a broadcaster that is affiliate, it extends to about 30 to 31 to 36, depending on whether or not it has space for it in the VOD. If you're a partner, it will possibly auto-delete somewhere around the ballpark of 60 to 75 days. However, the actual thing that people know, and the thing that's relevant for this, is the way that an API backend scraper, a Google bot crawler, works with pulling the data of these things. And the thing that is being left out here is the knowledge of how it does broadcasts concerning the analytics and concerning the actual content itself. So, right now, Carl Inception. But I'm going to show you the back end of what my content looks like in the video producer. This back end of the video producer is how broadcasts are brought up. As you can see here, the instituted session has a video storage feature. This does not affect VODs. It only affects highlights and uploads. The thing that people were doing was that they were clicking on highlight from a Twitch VOD, or they were downloading a piece of content that then got uploaded. You can also upload videos, in case nobody knew that. You can upload things to Twitch now. And they were then taking the VOD of PirateSoftware streams, whether they were doing it by using the Google API crawler, they were using another TwitchBot API crawler that exists on my laptop, that's over at Star's Place. They were using methods of pulling the API from the Twitch clip to get the original stream that the VOD came from, which that's easy for any person to do, especially if they have the clip on handy that they're pulling from, both for clips that are made of your channel by other users and clips you have created yourself. They are going to the video, getting a copy of the full VOD itself, however long the VOD is. They are then taking it into the upload. They're then highlighting the section in relevance to what he's saying, which is how I got the video that I have, and videos like it that have been spread across the internet, by other channels that are either hate posting the content or people that are criticizing him with the content. Because on TikTok, of all things, you will notice, at least on the handheld version of the app, the content featuring PirateSoftware and his opinions
Would make you
coming from the streaming PirateSoftware channel can't be downloaded unless you use something like SS TikTok Downloader, which is similar to the same way people are using it with Twitch polls. And they are pulling the content and they're re-uploading it that way. And he's going out with his copyright system and he's striking down every single reposted copy of his live stream, citing that they're stealing and violating the DMCM copyright, and he is trying to delete the VODs of the behavior and the takes that he said out of existence that still exist in highlight format. Because as you can see here, highlights, they don't go away. They're permanently saved. This was the problem back then that I talked about when I had to basically offload or needed to check some the offload of content that already existed on Single Player Carl Live, the backup VOD channel. If you go down far enough, you will find content of yours, if there's any there right now. It appears to not be the case. But you can go and you can look at uploads and highlights that are still there, and you can then see past broadcasts that would be going out of the system and expiring over time. But when you are a partnered streamer, you can actually have a particular VOD saved permanently on access to your Steam API or to your Twitch API browser system, whatever tool you're using to access it. It's different on mobile and it's different on PC because you have to use a special version of it, especially if you're doing this with something like YouTube, of all things, with exports. And you can permanently save it to your account if you have your agent allow you to do it. In order for this to be proven wrong, PirateSoftware would have to do the equivalent of what I'm doing right now and show people his background. We're going to have to do a Boulder Boy moment. Show us your video producer. Show us the actual VODs of your content. What will happen, just like when Boulder Boy had to expose the fact that he was doing copyright against people, is that there will be an entire section of his video producer where instead of doing a broadcast and having it public, he'll have gone to it and he'll have unpublished it, which will say unpublished, like this. And it'll be just a line of unpublished or outright deleted things. It won't physically show a deleted section, it'll just black out. He has to be willing to do this. Because another thing that could be happening, which I'm almost certain probably is at some level, is that on his stream VODs, he can make it so that it doesn't store them. As you see here, it shows you the examples I just gave. 7-day normal, 14-day affiliate, 60-day partner, turbo and prime users. He can make it so that it doesn't always publish. And he can also disable clips. And he can also have clips be excluded. He can make it so that people have to be followers for a certain amount of time. And he can also make it subscriber only. And only make clips discoverable if they're featured on his channel directly by him. As well as making it possible for the streamers and editors to edit which clips are featured and which ones go out. And whether or not viewers are allowed to directly post clips that they clipped from Twitch to TikTok and YouTube. For the, for the reposters. He has to be willing to show this. And he is not. On his TikTok clips, he's turned off downloads. On his main channel clips, he has turned off downloads. On any person he can get access to for the Twitch clips, he has turned off downloads. You have to use a Ripper. At every avenue where he could be forward-facing with responses, he has denied access to the conversation in real time. And then deleted the proof of what was happening, and then said to people live on camera, no, you don't need to know about it, you just need to go to the version that's already posted. No, that doesn't exist. No, I didn't delete that for that reason. I deleted that one because of the feedback. I made another one. It is the most wishy-washy,
forward-facing bullshit that I only ever expect from female streamers who are refusing to admit that they tried to say something that they didn't mean, and they put themselves in the same kind of litigious situation that the Hassan orbiters are currently in with Ethan Klein. Now, granted, PirateSoftware is not going to get sued by any of us. We don't care so much to sue you, bro. You're already in hell. But if somebody wants to, anyone who has the chance, you have the chance to do something really funny. You have the chance to do something really funny. And demonstrate that he's not just a liar, but he's a litigious liar. You can sue him over it. Dispute it. Take him to court. Make it YouTube law that if you're a petty bitch, you're gonna get made fun of on the internet and farmed for content. Especially,
I mean, that's an unwritten rule anyway.
Especially considering that this particular fucking clip that I clicked on here is one of the examples that came 1 day ago about Jason's own opinion about how he's going to handle the SCG controversy, moving on from the point that it has now lapsed 1 million signatures.
Would making any changes to it make an initiative I can support? I'm going to be honest with you. I don't want to talk about it anymore. I don't want to support it. I don't want to talk about why I don't support it. I don't want to put out any more messaging about it. Because ever since I put out those videos, now 10 months ago, it has been a never-ending tide of hate towards myself, our moderators, and everything else that we do. And in the last 3 days, it has been constant wars over every aspect of my life and trying to prove that everything that I've ever said I've done is real. I don't give a about the initiative. I just want them to go away at this point. And I'm not going to support it, and you can't bully me into doing so. And that's that. Someone on Insta is saying you're never a Blizzard dev? That's because I wasn't. I was in quality assurance, and then I was the lead of application security, and then I was a senior red team specialist. I'm an often...
This is true. He was never a Blizzard developer. He just worked for 7 years at Blizzard amongst the group that is basically concerned with cybersecurity, hacking prevention, and the ban waves for offensive security.
Offensive security specialist. I'm a hacker, dude. When the hell have I ever said I was a dev there? What? People make up all kinds of shit. That's like putting on your like food saying it doesn't contain asbestos, and then everyone has to be like, well, mine doesn't either. Be like, yeah, but your box doesn't say that. How'd you get into hacking? Misspent youth. Now I'm a dev, yeah. I'm an indie dev, man. Yup.
There's another one here. I don't remember if that one's relevant. Yes, this is the one where it has the pictures of people.
You should go watch my video for it, dude. I have
another example. This one's from 5 days ago, specifically telling somebody to go look to him. Oh, look here! Look here on the chat! Look here on the side chat! Look at this fucking wall of text! It's the Carl position! Even on TikTok, they know how to single-player Carl!
I have 2 videos that are out for it. I have an entire FAQ where I explained all of my stances on that in the first video. It's pinned on there. It's like a mile long. And then I also have a comment that I left on Louis Rossman's video about the issue as well, 10 months ago.
There's another person that he only wanted to respond to. Louis Rossman, of all people. Dad of right to comply and right to repair.
I think to be real with you, like, don't take my word for it. Just go watch what I put out. Go read the initiative yourself. Watch the other videos that people put out and decide for yourself how you feel. And if you still don't agree with me, that's fine. Yeah. But, like, I'm looking at it as a perspective of, like, a game dev where I see danger for future developers, including indies. And that's why I made that video. But at the same time, I haven't talked about this publicly in 10 months. I put those videos out, and then I washed my hands of it. You know, I've already watched the video and I talked to Charlie.
So, explicit lies, based on the clip that I provided already here. So, there's also then this here that shows only his YouTube side, which that doesn't do shit, because obviously, one of the things that is actually important is that it's possible to put up videos that are longer than 12 hours, but they have to be put up as uploads. They cannot actually be put up as like VODs, because what he says about the likes, or excuse me, the lives on YouTube is true. As we already know from the section that I did about the 16 hours of content that I did, specifically covering the event around Dark Viper AU and his non-stop malding. Quote,
Here are all the videos from that time period. As you can see, they all cut off at 11:55 and are missing or show times of 20 hours. When streaming over 16 hours, the VODs routinely disappear or go into a broken state. The broken state causes them to be a black screen, and they cannot be recovered unless you reach out to YouTube for a 720p version, if they have it. Any video set to 11:55 is deleted all content that is beyond it. Notice how many are missing due to this issue because I stream at a minimum of 12 hours a day, 5 days a week. Again, this is how VODs work on YouTube. It sucks mad ass, and I have bitched to them about it for years, as have many other creators. Notice the specific statement of, this is how VODs work on YouTube. He makes no mention of the content on Twitch, which he said in the one beforehand, but no mention of the knowledge of how this works for Twitch, no mention of the knowledge of how it works for other platforms, such as YouTube and Kick, except in this instance, specifically to try to rebuff it, and saying, bro, I make all this content, bro, I make all this content! You can't expect me to have VODs of all of this! Just by nature of having clippers, this would obviously not be true, and by the nature of LSF, this would also not be true as well. Because of course people are going to then take the clips examples, or they're going to start streaming and start recording from a co-stream moment, and they're going to pull data there as well. But this is the cope that he tried to give him on the first response. Then, here, on the same post, when user Zedits asked him, so, where's the VOD yesterday? Deleted due to hate raids. We banned a shit ton of people and I nuked the VODs. VODs on Twitch save chats and I don't want to see shit on there. This is some bullshit, as I will demonstrate. Inside of the VOD system, it is possible for you to turn off the chat room on the side in the material. When you go to your broadcast, you can go to the VOD page, and right here in the sidebar is where it will bring up your chat room. If the messages are typed inside the chat. Obviously, on some of these messages, I don't have users that are always talking inside of Twitch. So for this, I'm going to have to use a different example. So where is my VOD for section 13? Where members of Guy Swing were watching. What day was that? What day was that? What day was that? Section... Nope, that is not what I want. Section 13. There we go. Also, just soft abrase. You can see here that the broadcast was cut in half because my fucking VOD got interrupted on that day because I had a crash. VOD page. Chat room messages. Chat on videos. Collapse. Expand. Collapse. Expand. On editing, highlight, URLs, save, export, download, unpublish, and it should be somewhere inside of settings for stream or channel. If it's not there, it might have been changed within recent years from where I last remember. But it should be here under moderation and streamer content. Blocking of hyperlinks, chat verification, chat rules, unban requests, stopping banned users from viewing your stream, which is a new feature and tool that they've added, allowing moderators to pin messages, sub chat only, harmful chat detection, automod rule sets. It might be that I'm mistaken. So I'm just going to have to apologize in chat, and I'm just going to double check myself. Is it possible to turn off the chat on Twitch? Is there a way to deactivate chat completely? It is not possible to deactivate chat completely, but you can do a few things. You can set the chat to 3-month minimum, blah, 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 use sub only, blah, blah, blah. You activate the rules pop-up for new people in the stream to complete the chat and what it's about. You cannot disable the chat. You can use something on this and blah, blah, blah. So no, it is actually not possible to remove it the way that I originally remember it, unless I'm remembering the ability to collapse and remove and expand the chat room. But it is entirely possible for him to leave his VOD up and to make it so that he doesn't actually have to look at it. So this is more of Carl is mistaken, but this is more like a Black Mirror moment. The more you look at it, the more it pisses you off, right? So when he says this in response to the user, oh, I deleted the VOD because of hate raids. I banned a shitload of people and I nuked the VODs of my content. It saves chats and I don't want that shit on there. This is like if somebody in my chat room, to get seen on the Botrix relog, was to type something on another platform that then would be seen on the stream. So, where I would have to, for argument's sake, clear the chat by resetting it. If I didn't want the person's message to be seen there, and I wanted to control access to the information, and the only thing that was available was the VODs that existed on this platform, on Kick, on Twitch, on X, and the vertical that would exist on both the vertical and the portrait form, but you would have to go to Twitch. You have to go to TikTok directly for the portrait form. Otherwise, it'll only come up as the vertical on TikTok. You would have to find the material in question and platform it as such. So, basically, still bullshit. So even while being mistaken that it's a literal I have a chat on, I have a chat off, and I don't mean like the sub version, the sub only, emote only, because those are also modes that exist inside of the Steam Manager, which is the closest you can get to like turning the chat off. You go and you hit clear chat, you go and you hit follower only chat, you use the tools for quick action, for turning them off, for turning them on. So let's see if I can go find the ones in question I'm looking for. Let's see here. Community chat, clearing the chat history, toggling emote only, toggling sub only, toggling follower only. It's possible for him to turn on sub and emote only and basically remove any person's ability to have the ability to type messages and words. But this is it's just flat out bullshit when you really look at it at the top of the argument. You deleted your VOD because of hate raids. So you deleted the evidence of chats that existed because you decided arbitrarily to do so on all of the connective links where you restream. That's a likely story. It's literally Darvo, actually. But okay, alright. That's an argument.
There's another tweet that's up there. Go look at the one that I have up right now, and then look at the one connected to it. Yeah, I apologize to Ross. I shouldn't have been a dick to him. I shouldn't have done ad hominem on that. I was emotional and mad. I'm human. That's how it works, right? And I apologize. I absolutely don't like the initiative. I don't like the wording that he uses, but I shouldn't have been a dick to Ross. And that's why I said that. That's why I apologized for it. Because that's the right thing to do. And I did that because Josh Strife Hayes reached out to me and called me out on it, and he was correct. And to be real with you, I think a lot of it is probably over the fact that, like, I've been really jaded for the last 6 months because every single time, like, any time that I'm interacting with social media for the last 6 months since the World of Warcraft shit, it is the most vile, hateful shit that I've ever seen. So I built up this callus, and now I'm just an asshole.
No, you're just an asshole without the event happening. It's just that now, in light of your behavior and your either tiered, planned, intentional, possible kayfabe, which is one interpretation, or your raw, real, emotional snatchback and your refusal for interaction, which is another, or just the raw, emotional, real, and volatile anger and spite and refusal to apologize, which is another one, all which can be likely, you know, Schrodinger's asshole of Schrodinger's cat. We don't know what type of asshole he is, but we know he is an ass. We don't know how big the hole is, but we know that it's large, and it's wide, and it's curvaceous, and it's got little divots. Might even have some hemorrhoids. Maybe even some pinworms. Some emotional pinworms. Whatever the rationale you have, you're still a dick. Which is actually what this part is relative towards. Because now we get to hear him say, because of Charlie.
Including... Yep. You should go watch my video for it, dude. I have 2 videos, a game dev, where I see danger for future developers, including indies. And that's why I made that video. But at the same time, I haven't talked about this publicly in 10 months. I put those videos out, and then I washed my hands of it, you know? I've already watched the video, and I talked to Charlie. We disagree on things, which is fine. Like, that's fine with me. He and Josh Strife Hayes brought up a very important point, though. I was uncharitable to Ross Scott on a personal basis by insulting him. So I apologized for that on Twitter, because that is 100% not acceptable when we're having a debate over ideals. In terms of ideological distances, though, like, I don't agree with Ross Scott. Like, I've made that very clear. But I should not insult the man. Yep, which is why I apologized for. Why not apologize sincerely on stream? I already have. I just don't have to do it for you. What do you... Why not do it? Do it for me now, streamer. Dance. Dance for me. I didn't see it.
Do the raw.
Do the raw. Exactly. Ridiculous shit, dude. God, I hate that shit, man.
Now, there is an element to this that is true, no matter how you want to view it, chat. Performatively being asked to do the raw every single time somebody wants you to do something. You mention you're a broadcaster. You mention you're a comedian. You mention you're a singer. Sing something for me. Do something for me. Dance something for me. I'm a voice actor. Voice act this type of character with this interpretation for this actor who has specialized this voice specifically for their voice. Or something generic, like Vegeta. It is annoying to be asked to perform and dance monkey dance on the spot. Now, in context, one mind, it is our job. Our job is to dance monkey dance, chat. You input money, I output stimuli. Ooh, ooh, ah, ah. On the other side of our brain, though, there is a world, and I'll explain it like this. We broadcasters have 3 emotional batteries. We have the emotional battery for the content, we have the emotional battery for the situation, and we have the emotional battery for people personally. When one or more of these batteries start to drain, the kind of energy that we have to do content on camera is not the same as the emotional battery to play social video games with the mic turned off, and is also not the same capacity to do content in a group of people in a state of group behavior or parallel play on or off content while existing in the ether nearby them. So, the same energy that you have to play with your kids is not the same energy you have to play a video game by yourself, is not the same energy you have to play a video game with a group of friends, whether you're doing it for content or not. There is a world where you get tired of the non-stop desire of someone to make you do something, while also attempting to understand that, look, I know it's my job, but there, like I said before in the past, from another situation event, another pee-pee slapping of me by horror, there is a better way to communicate this, where you do not have to crash out. These opinions are true statements of fact about the job. But he is fucking lying through his teeth when he says this shit. In the clip itself, he does the same shit. Right here.
To do it for you. I've made that very clear over ideals. In terms of ideological distances, though, like, I don't agree with Ross Scott. Like, I've made that very clear. But I should not insult the man. Yep. Which is why I apologized for. Why not apologize sincerely on stream? I already have.
Why not apologize sincerely on stream? He said he apologized on Twitter. Okay, cool. You apologized on a public platform, which is basically the open fucking low-hanging stall in the men's bathroom. Why don't apologize inside the foyer and the business lobby of the building? Why would I do that? What is this guy? Look at this dude! He's demanding apologies and shit! That's what he did. That's gay. He could say, look, I did apologize, but I can't just keep apologizing nonstop where I'm gonna do blah 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 blah. Like, literally, he could have even gotten one of those staples that was easy buttons that are programmed with a specific apology. And put some fucking earbuds on! You're in public! Thank you, Gox. I'm actually not a dick. I'm just a dick now because people were mean to me. Pirate Software. The harm was public, so the apology should be public too. Agree. He could have a Staples button that does an apology. That is basically a stock standard. And then he could do a bit where it's like, do you feel like that was sincere, chat? It doesn't feel sincere, does it? Now imagine how many times I've pressed this button. He puts a little fucking ticker in the bottom, or he puts a ticker, like, all around his neck. Do a little bit of some fucking Coach Thor shit. Every time he has to do the apology and he has to hit the button, it either automatically electronically tracks the button or he physically clicks it. And at some point it's like, I've hit this button over 2,000 times. It still doesn't feel sincere, does it, chat? Demanding apologies rarely ever does. And he could fuck off and do shit like that. But he doesn't do it that way. He makes a point to belittle the person in the situation. And he does it specifically so that he can try to beat allegations. Which are not helping him right now. Not at all. Not at all.
So I'm trying to fix that. You know, like it sucks dealing with hate every day over shit that doesn't matter.
Bro, I'm going to say this the calmest way I can. We are broadcasters. We are publicly facing content creators. At best, we are influencers, some of which would hope and pray, if not in reality, influence probably nothing. Part of the job is that we're going to get shit on. Part of the bit, part of the crew, part of the bit, part of the crew, part of the bit, part of the crew. You best stop believing in harassment, Pirate Software, cause you're getting it. It's a part of the job. If you can't stand the heat, get the fuck out of the kitchen. I know you have long hair, you already look like a woman, you're already whining like a woman, but get your ass away from it. I don't want you touching my fajitas. Stop it. Sure, every day you should not want to log into a game. Speaking to Carl in the past, playing Once Human, I should not want to log into my Once Human server and basically get a deluge of literally who's and also rans that don't even have the interest of asking me directly in my chat room, hey, this is so-and-so. Can you go into a call with me real quick and explain to me what happened? Can you tell me personally what your viewpoint and opinion is? I want to hear your side of the story. I want to see your evidence. I should not have to expect that for every single fucking person who wishes to do so, that wants to be involved, I should not have to do the effort and the work of putting out content, putting out material, putting out research, putting out VODs, putting out material for people to use as a cheat sheet and a quick reference guide, and then still have people deciding to harass my chat while not even understanding the fact that where they see me in the game chat, I'm not even talking about something relevant to the server. I'm doing something which, at the time, I believe I was looking at that Sneeko video. Yeah, I was looking at that Sneeko video. Because it was July, wasn't it? My brain wants to say it was July. But I'm looking at a piece of material in chat, and all of a sudden, here comes 100,000 people telling me how I need to do X, Y, and Z. Sure, I shouldn't expect to do that. The same way that I shouldn't expect to see that if I go on a Hell Watch and I'm doing an 8-hour stream of Helldivers or whatever live service game I'm doing, that I should be expected to have to explain myself to a random person in my lobby who recognizes me famously by my screen name. Sure, okay, yeah. It's still part of the job. You still have a procedure you go through with how you choose to handle that. Why are you whining? You're literally so big that it's literally part of the territory by default. Because people want to be on camera. Because they want to go, hi mom, hi YouTube, hi Twitch, hi Kick, hi X. The fuck are you talking about, man?
And I don't need to be a calloused bitch about it, so.
But you are! But you are! But you are!
I'm going to work on that. And that's it, right? It's never going to stop? Whatever. Like, now I understand what the problem is. I don't have to give a shit about it anymore.
Now that I understand the problem, I don't have to give a shit about it. I don't have to give a shit about the people's opinion of me and how I treated another person and how I refuse to take accountability and stop letting it affect me to the point where I decide that I'm going to block somebody who had the audacity
to respond with their own opinion on another platform where people are allowed to have their public opinion. That is the normal thing to do. That's a normal reaction. That is a take. That is definitely a take. It's a really bad take, but it's a take. It's your take. Nobody can take that take away from you.
You're our asshole? That sounds really weird. I don't like...
Instead of ignoring the message where somebody calls him an asshole, he reads it out to give it attention. I don't know. Did you have to read that chat mirror message? I don't think you did.
I don't like that at all, man.
Belittling the person, continuing to respond directly to them about the behavior, trying to laugh at them. Technically, you could say he's trying to laugh it off, but no, he's laughing at them. Oh, that's so stupid. You're so stupid for hating me. You come to my chat room and call me an asshole to my face. Sensible chuckle.
And you do get a lot of shit from chat.
And put some fucking earbuds on! You're in public! Literally bitch made behavior. True. So true, you docs.
Don't call me your asshole. It's so freaking weird, dude. Yeah, no, I'm not making a video about it. I already made videos 10 months ago. I made a couple of posts on social media because I talked to Josh Strife Hayes, and Josh Strife Hayes told me that I was being a dick to Ross Scott. I was hyper aggressive about it because I'm very passionate about the subject. So I apologized to Ross about it because I didn't need to be a dick.
Pause. No matter how many times any of you have ever heard, witnessed, or even by proxy through clips that I may post every now and again on a really passionate example. Not ones where I'm live tweet reacting to somebody who's trying to talk out the side of their neck. Just me talking about something passionately. It is possible for me to respond to the energy and the character of the person without personally wishing for the person's downfall, and specifically speaking in such a way where I'm basically just a nigga beside himself, where someone's got to be like, hey yo, this nigga's clearly lost his composure. It is possible for you to speak passionately about a subject matter and yap about it for any amount of time necessary, as is the point of things like yapping, or any broadcast where I ask a question and have a conversation with people like Jay, or with Mahler, or with Fringy or Rags, or with the Long Boys, like when we invited Poe for the Woman King, or with Jack, or with Burst, like we did on the recent Fart comic stream for the Harley Quinn April Fool's Day comic. It is possible for us to speak passionately and deeply, and even go excitedly with high energy back and forth between one or more people, and it is possible to do it without having to attack the person's character and attack the person's reputation of self. That is bullshit to the highest order. If I am probably the content creator who could say that explicitly, expeditiously, you are so full of shit for that.
I was ad homineming because I'm a dumbass, is really what it is. There's no reason to do that. And it's right. You know, Josh was correct. So I apologize for that, but I do not agree with the initiative still. And I don't agree with it because of the specific wording that it has, not for any other reason. And I made that very public. And that's it. Some people will accept that apology, some people won't. Some people will try to psychoanalyze it because they all have ChatGPT and they think that they're like a doctor now.
Assumptions of other people's behavior, but you said you were getting over it. I don't know if psychoanalyzing and trying to prognosticate about other people's behavior, about your behavior, is healed behavior, but we're going to put that in the still molding category, okay? That's still molding. You're mad and you're still mad. You're ass mad. You're ass blasted. Your butt frustrated. Your jimmies have been permanently rustled on the inside with poison ivy. You're going into anaphylactic shock. The shit, it's going everywhere. All over the walls. All over the children. Scatology. Everywhere.
And all this shit, but it really doesn't matter, right?
Then if it doesn't matter, why do you keep responding to these things from chat? Why is there still another minute and 14 seconds to go?
Yeah. I put it out there. Everyone can accept it or not. That's it. Yeah. Josh Strife Hayes is a good dude. He is. How do you feel about consumer rights? I think consumer rights are incredibly important. I think that when you are dealing with consumer rights, you need to thread the needle. And what I mean by that is you need to make sure that you are making changes that make sense for consumers, but do not limit in any way the ability to be creative. And that is why I'm concerned about this language. Because it will stop future developers from being creative the way that it is worded.
Pause. No, it doesn't. It literally leaves open the litigation and litition for any of the corporate lawyers that speak lizard to be able to communicate to the common layman the general understanding of what it is they're looking for. When I buy a game, when I go online and... Path of Exile 2. Actually, no, just Path of Exile website. When I go to pathofexile.com and I go to the trade and the shop and I click on microtransactions, specials, mystery box, the private league, my watch lists, the ability to buy packs to support the game, whether it be for Exile 1 or Exile 2. When I go to pathofexile.com and I want to support them, it is very clear in the signage and in the information that when I buy something like a pack and I buy something along the terms of, say, the Trophies of Supporter pack, that if I click this button to pay $30, I am buying microtransaction points, a supporter form title, a portrait frame, access to the extended digital soundtrack, the Frisian Magistrate character effect and weapon effect. I am buying a digital interaction. That I'm not instead buying a fucking 3-hour VOD of myself doing porn with another woman. Or whatever you want to imagine you could be selling for $30. Only Carl's. When I go to Steam, and instead of clicking on a free game, like Knockout City, I go to the store category, and I just go to the home page, and I click on any of these. I know that when I buy access to a 30% off version of Schedule 1, even though technically I'm not actually buying Schedule 1, I'm unlocking access to it by privilege on an account that could be taken away from me should I abuse the terms of service of my Digital Millennium Copyright Platform access as per the EULA and the TOS of Steam. But for the sake of argument, we know what I mean. When I buy a copy of Schedule 1, I'm not buying a license to Schedule 1. I'm not buying a limited time access state of content around Schedule 1. I'm buying a copy of this game and all the content that goes with it, including its co-op multiplayer aspect. When I buy a copy of Rust, I'm not buying a license to Rust, or, an even better example, the old examples of Atlas and their litigiousness around Persona and the amount of content that you could stream. Let me see if I can find an original copy of it. Here we go. Official streaming guidelines. And these ones are as recent as SMT5 Vengeance. The following are guidelines for live streaming and posting images, videos, sounds of Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance, published by Atlas for Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 5, 4, Steam, Xbox, SX, One, and Windows. You can live stream and post videos of blah 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 blah. When I buy a copy of SMT5 Vengeance, I am buying a physical copy of this game. And I should not be held to an unfair standard that I am broadcasting and expected to not broadcast up to a certain piece of content in the game. Let me see if I can find examples of that for Persona 4. Or, excuse me, Persona 5. Actually, no, the most recent one I remember is Persona 4 that I read myself.
Nintendo Life releasing strict streaming guidelines for Persona 3 Portable and Persona 4 Golden. I want an official original link, but for some reason they don't have one. As popular streaming is nowadays, number of companies forced to a certain set of rules when it comes to release games. Japanese company Atlas doing this time again with games like 13 Sentinels Agents of Rem and Persona 5 Royal, releasing guidelines for Persona 3 and Persona 4 Golden. Information coming from the company's Japanese website, which is written slightly here than in the West. Despite enhanced pre-releases from 2009, 2012, blah, 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 blah. I'm really just trying to look for the one where it specifically had on there that you could not broadcast up past a certain point in the story. All I'm seeing are the articles that show that it has no restriction anymore. Yeah, and that's for the remasters. That's annoying. But once upon a time, chat, there was a requirement that you had to have for all of the Persona games and SMT games, where at a certain point in the story, you could not restream the game or stream content of the game that would spoil a certain part of the story up to a certain point. It was physically posted outside with the same litigious standards that it had there, and it's the same for almost every company, even including things that are notorious, that are actually now known and notorious for this with remasters, such as the screen that you get when you do this for Dragon Quest 11S. But I guess they've just been scrubbed from the internet, unless I go looking a little bit harder. But I'll do that on the side for a second. Let's continue.
And I don't like that, man. Like, it scares the shit out of me. And that's it, right? And that's why I bring it up, because it freaks me out. Yeah, consumer rights are super important. But you can't just be like, this site gets everything. It doesn't work that way. You have to thread the needle. You have to be logical about that shit. And if you can't do that, I don't know what the hell's going on. Yeah, I talked to Charlie and Josh Strife Hayes, and then I wrote this up. Charlie didn't like it, but Josh Strife Hayes thanked me, and that's all I care about.
Josh is a really decent dude. Like when I was at the Expedition 33 event in London, he and I had a couple of really long, good chats. He's an all-round decent dude.
You forgot to record yourself playing the ukulele? Eat shit. I'll never do that crap.
Okay, I found the section that I was referring to. Let me put it on screen really quick. So, originally in the past, it was made a rule that you could not stream past a certain in-game date, which was July 7th. And then it was revised to November 19th, which was the start of the final act. But eventually they rewrote it so that you could know that there was no longer a restriction of this broadcast material. For obvious fucking reasons. So, in continuance of the opinion that I was just giving, when you buy something, when you pay for something, with the understanding that you're not paying for a live service game, you're paying for something that should have the expectation for multiplayer peer-to-peer access and a completely functional offline video game experience, that when I pay for something, I am not paying for a license of access to the product, I am buying the product. This does not work with live service games as they exist for forever games such as League of Legends. Technically, you can make an argument for things like Path of Exile, and in the case of Path of Exile 2, you do have to pay to buy into the early access. So that's much easier to put in concept. But, basically, when I bought, or rather, when Star bought, this drink earlier at Sam's Club, when I was out shopping, I didn't get a license that allowed me to drink the liquid. I bought the cup, which means I own the cup, I own the lid, I own the straw, and I own the liquid in the cup! You don't get to decide how they give me the liquid in the cup, or the liquid that should be in the cup. Not the consumer, by their own taste, because the customer's always right in matters of taste. And the developers don't control what goes in my cup, because if you try to sell me dog shit piss, I'm just gonna go drink cherry wine. If cherry wine decides they're going to give me the fluid that is being taken out of a fistula, then I'm going to drink water. And if every single spring water company decides, actually, we now sell menstrual blood, Would you like it with or without the prenatal cord blood? Well, I guess I'm gonna be like Bear Grylls, and I'm getting me a filtration system. I'm gonna scoop it out the goddamn river, and I'm gonna sanitize it myself. I'm gonna pretend I'm a survivalist. Even though personally I prefer Man vs. Wild. It is not hard. It is not a difficult position to understand or take. It is not an argument that any person can really be able to achieve. Now, let's get to the point of everyone else's opinions. Let's do it very fast, very quick. So let's start off with let's start off with Charlie. Speed run.
You know what this is right here, pal? I'm a tough guy. You feeling lucky? Yeah, that's right. Spirit fingers. Do you know why? Because it's been about 30 hours since I last slept, and I've done 3 different intros, all of which crash and burned, and I am off my gourd, so now I'm going wacko mode. But even in my sleep-deprived state, I am still lucid enough to recognize how cattywampus the AAA gaming space has become. Like, the gaming industry has so many things that I have bitched and moaned about. Probably the biggest practice that I've been most vocal about, not exactly shy on, is the topic of you will own nothing and be happy. The Ubisoft motto. God rest that company's soul. What a pile of dog shit. But it's not just Ubisoft. That has become a prevalent business strategy across the gaming industry. You will own nothing. You will be happy. You're basically, you come away with the idea of ownership of whatever games you purchase. I've worn this topic out more than a fleshlight in a frat house, but it is something I'm very passionate about. The gaming industry is getting away with more and more garbage where they'll take a shit in your mouth and you're expected to thank them for adding some flavor to your taste buds. It's terrible. And there is an initiative that has been aiming to fight back against a lot of these practices that I think really need some big overhaul. And it's an initiative that I think a lot of you are probably very familiar with. It's called Stop Killing Games. And I've followed it since its inception. I've talked about it on stream quite a few times, though this is my first video going over it. And I regret that now because I see it wasn't going as well as I thought it was. Admittedly, I didn't follow how successful the initiative was, only that it was aiming to do good for consumers, and that it was taking proper steps legally to get there, and it was going through all of the right channels. And now today I watched a video from the guy that's spearheading this. His name is Ross. He posted a video called The End of Stop Killing Games, where he's giving an update on where everything's at and how it's kind of at the finish line here with a lot of failure to show for it, with only a few other chances to fight back. Now, before getting into the weeds on the topic, I want to get this in the beginning because I imagine the vast majority of people won't watch the whole thing. I'm putting a link to the full video on Stop Killing Games, as well as a link to where you go to help support the Stop Killing Games initiative, because there's only a little bit of time left for the most important parts of it now that it's at the end. So if you know what the movement is and want to support it but didn't know where, the resources are in the description, or if you want to get it right from like the source, I have a link to his video. But I want to go into it myself here because it is a topic that I do feel very strongly about. But for those that don't know anything about Stop Killing Games, I'm going to let him explain it in his own words, that way you can get an actual, correct, informed explanation of what the initiative is. And the reason I say it like that, kind of like fucking all, pinky out, snooty, is because a lot of people don't even really know what this is because of people like PirateSoftware completely misrepresenting what the initiative was.
As a refresher, Stop Killing Games is a consumer movement to stop publishers from effectively destroying video games they've already sold to customers.
I'll pause right there. The simplest bare bones birthday suit butt-ass naked explanation for what this is. Stop destroying things that people have paid money to own. I think that is a very understandable, very reasonable take, very agreeable. Now I want to quickly jump to a different spot in this video because I think it's important to have this in the beginning because it's something a lot of people have heard that comes from someone that is just wrong about it. It's the PirateSoftware portion. Ross is addressing the video PirateSoftware made many months ago. Ross even says that he didn't plan on doing that because he didn't want to be seen as using this for drama farming, because it would start to make the movement look less of like a legitimate initiative and more of just like drama slop content type thing. But he finally starts talking about PirateSoftware here because it's at the end of the life cycle of this initiative and it's not looking promising, so he's willing to do anything to try and set the record straight and hopefully start getting more momentum back to the movement, because the damage PirateSoftware did to it through his video was substantial.
This video came out right as we were building momentum. Then except for one boost in Germany, the signature started drying up like clockwork. Ford does not understand what Stop Killing Games is. Here it is in his words.
So for those who don't understand, the Stop Killing Games initiatives is basically we don't want single-player games to have DRM that the developers can turn off and thus render the single-player games inactive anymore. This is what they want to change. They need to be...
The fact that that was the way that he chose to approach it is so fucking retarded and bullshit and dumb that it physically hurts me. To no end. Sure, okay, let's put no DRM on video games under the fucking banner of things that the Stop Killing Games movement would like to have. Because it's not the Keep Games Alive movement, it's not the force developers to do endless processing and endless content creation for a game that's 14, 15 years old movement. It's the Stop Killing Games movement. Technically, it's the Stop Killing Games initiative. Back in the past, when Borderlands 3 was on Epic Games Store, and it's still the case to this day, when Lolcow trolls like Vito Gaswalti tried to go toe-to-toe with myself and Dev concerning the hack systems that were going about from Phoenix Brave and other games like it, and their communities proving that there was a virtual machine that was running Borderlands 3, that if you went under the 2 megabyte upload speed, it would automatically hard crash your game due to their kernel level anti-cheat that said if you went under this number, you're clearly hacking, cheating, modding, or doing something to fool the system. Yes, let's put that under the banner. No, I don't need you to put Denuvo in my game. Stop it. You're actually destroying my game, and you're destroying my frames. Sure, 100%, but that's not what the movement's about, and that's not what it has written down.
specific that they're talking about single-player games that do not need a server to support them.
No.
And as much as they want it to be about specifically games, whereas a single-player game that has always online functionality, it would impact every live service game that exists, instead of just targeting single-player, always online games.
No, that's not what it is. Stop Killing Games includes single-player games, but nothing about it is specific to them. He completely made that up, and I have no idea where he got that impression. It's the first line on the website. Stop Killing Games is a consumer movement started to challenge the legality of publishers destroying video games they have sold to customers. But the movement includes all this stuff from earlier, and he was mostly talking about the initiative.
He didn't even get the Cliff Notes summary right. He missed all the QTEs and got the bad ending on understanding the initiative from the jump here. Ross is correct. This has nothing to do with just single-player only games that require an online connection, that when the online connection is severed, you lose access to the game. Like, yeah, that is included in all of this, but that's not, like, what the whole movement is about. And for some reason, PirateSoftware is stun-locked on that, like, fixated, as if that is the actual, like, meat and potatoes of Stop Killing Games. They need to be more specific in their language about it being single-player, always online connectivity games. When that's just not what it's about. Like, they're not being specific about that because that is not what they're specifically targeting. It is about the whole practice of destroying games that consumers have already purchased and having no end-of-life plans for games that are being sunset. So, for example, The Crew. The Crew is an example everyone is going to reference and talk about because Ubisoft is still currently in a lawsuit battling against it for what happened with this game. I've yapped about it quite a bit, so I'm not just going to regurgitate that. I'm sure a lot of you already know the story about it. But basically, you buy The Crew, Ubisoft pulls the plug on the servers, you can't play The Crew anymore. Now it's just an old wet dream of what once was. And they are facing a lawsuit, and while this is in the umbrella of Stop Killing Games, it is not the only thing Stop Killing Games is referencing when it comes to this practice. PirateSoftware is so hung up on it being single-player games that people lose access to, when that is a component of it, but not the entire focus.
Well, the short version is the initiative is about requiring publishers to have end-of-life plans for games they sold to customers in the future. So when they shut them down, customers can continue running them without their support. So that's one thing Thor doesn't understand, but he also seems to think this is about converting multiplayer games to single-player.
Transitioning an entire multiplayer server-side game into a single-player video game, which means rebalancing the entire experience around single-player, rebuilding everything in the entire game. How are you going to do that with Final Fantasy XIV? You're just going to make all the raids soloable? Imagine the day that World of Warcraft shuts down, and suddenly you have to make it a single-player game for every individual that ever bought the game. That's what they're asking for.
No.
Because they would have to sunset live service games as a single-player experience. The idea that suddenly you need to make every single live service game playable single-player offline? No, dude.
Correct.
There are multiple games that have already done this. I've actually played one of them with horror on camera. It's Dragon's Nest. There are other games that do this, and ironically enough, two of them is literally Path of Exile 1, and the other is Path of Exile 2, amongst many others. Many of them are Korean MMO grinders. They are literally designed to scale to your level and scale to your party size. So yes, you can literally play the game in a single-player format. All you need to have is the actual data script that has the enemy AI and the player AI. It's possible to do this depending on how the game is actually set up. Should you try this for something that requires an always online connection in the formulation of something like Realm of the Mad God? A game that has gone through a change of hands with 3 different companies, Lord pray it hasn't gone through a 4th, where you need to have the server running permanently so that you have access to all of the content that has so many layers on top of each other that they have to interact with each other through this format. This material, this content of that nature, content of that format, it is in such a way where it would require such an interaction as such for its involvement, but it's not at all that either. Don't know where the fuck he got that from.
No.
This part is more confusing than Finnegan's Wake, because nowhere in anything on Stop Killing Games has this even been like a talking point from anyone besides PirateSoftware. I don't know where he pieced this puzzle together. Like I don't get it. Like, if I'm going to try and like really reach here and give like a charitable explanation for this take, maybe he's extrapolating based on the idea that if publishers have to have end-of-life plans for their games, that includes MMOs, where once the game is getting sunset, you're pulling the plug on it, you would then need to turn the game over to the community in a playable state, an accessible state, like give the code to them. Thus, it turned it into a single-player experience, so the onus would be on the developers to rebalance their game to be a single-player experience for them. I guess. I have no idea. That still just doesn't make any sense, but maybe that's the tree he's barking up with that thought process. I really don't know, because Stop Killing...
Realistically, if you wanted to try and make it sound sensible, you have to take single-player out and put in private server. And unfortunately, if you put that in, that already exists. Literally. Pick a game that's old. It already has a private server. It has some type of version that is running a game version that basically is a low-rate system where you log into the game and you are an immortal god. You have all the content, you can do whatever the fuck you want, you can't attack other players because that would ruin the immersion, but everybody has everything, and everybody gets to have fun with the content. Pick RuneScape, click MapleStory, pick MapleStory on a free-to-play server. I think they call them Rebirth servers. Pick Diablo 1, Diablo 2, Diablo 3, bot versions of Diablo 4, Diablo Median, Diablo the Hell, any video game, anywhere at any time that has ever existed in an online format. It has been bricked, it has been hacked, it has been chopped and screwed, and there is an online server for it. Hell, it's gotten so good to the fact that mods of these games already have their environment. I've played some of them in the past. One example is Project Diablo 2. Another example is Diablo Media and the online SendWord server, which runs off of a shard of the AT&T connection that was running for the original BattleNet servers. If he took single player out of it and made it MMOs, it'd be a one-to-one understanding and people would still be fucking lost. But at least it would make rational sense.
Games at no point ever says any of these multiplayer games need to be converted to single player. That really is outlandish. And the more I think about it, like, the more nonsensical it becomes, because even in PirateSoftware's hypothetical fanfic there, why would the developers need to rebalance the game? They would just turn over the code to the community and just it'd be in that state. They're no longer responsible for balancing the game. That's the whole point. They're not indefinitely supporting it. They would just be responsible of leaving the game in an accessible state to the community while they would shut down the servers on their end. Like, they wouldn't need to go back through with a whole development team and, like, you know, tweak the game to be single player compatible. It just doesn't make sense. Like, I really do not understand that one. But apparently a lot.
And there's examples of that already existing, some being things like Navi No Guy Pro, or even fucking Toontown Online rewritten, where it has custom content from the community itself.
People latched onto that talking point from PirateSoftware as something that Stop Killing Games was asking for, and how unreasonable it was. Which, if that's what Stop Killing Games was asking for, it would be unreasonable. But that's not what it's asking for.
Nowhere in there does it say that it's directly targeting always online single-player games.
Oh, he's so close. He's so close to getting it.
It is vague, and because of that, it won't help.
He never has that light bulb moment. Well, he is correct in that statement. It's almost as if that's not what the initiative is asking for.
I know this part is once again just reinforcing that he doesn't know what the Stop Killing Games movement is about, but I have to just show you this because it is so fascinating, because he himself literally calls out that Stop Killing Games at no point explicitly mentions single-player always online games or anything like that. And for some reason, instead of following the breadcrumbs that would naturally lead him to the conclusion of, oh, maybe I misunderstood, maybe because it's absent here, that's not what this is actually about. Instead, he uses it as a criticism against the Stop Killing Games initiative entirely, saying it's just too vague, it's way too vague. The reason it is not explicitly stated there is because that is not what the whole initiative is about. It is not specifically targeting that thing that you keep saying that it is. I don't know how that never clicked.
But those were his streams with a smaller audience. What does he say in his big YouTube video with over 1 million views that he had time to research?
If we're trying to kill off the practice of developers putting together a live service game, pitching it as a single-player experience, and then taking away support in the future.
Now he's changed it again and is making up how it's about single-player games are advertised. What is he doing?
It needs to be specific about the business practice it's trying to defeat, which is specifically companies that are doing this under the guise of it being a single-player game, but adding online-only functionality that is not necessary and doesn't add any gameplay elements. That's the problem.
No, that's not it at all.
This is a really strong section from Ross here, because the clips that you saw moments ago were from his stream. When he took more time to watch it and digest it, he still came back in that video misrepresenting it. Like, it never dawned on him. Like, on stream he could write it off as like, oh, he didn't grasp it in the moment, maybe later on he did. Well, then he made the video where he still was talking about things that are just not what Stop Killing Games was about, and this was the one that really blew up and really started to kind of dismantle the Stop Killing Games momentum.
If we don't like the idea...
And it's why my standard, my opinion, has been that the correct way to go about this is that he needed to talk about this live on camera with multiple people. But unfortunately, that example I asked for earlier, where you have 3 people on him, it's a 3v1, PirateSoftware against Ross, and Charlie, and Josh Dreyfus. We're not going to use Mudahar, because Mudahar's a bad person to use, because he'll just be triggered by him and say, why is he here? He's just trying to monetize me. You would just hear 3 people trying to get it through his thick skull that he's just wrong on something. And it would demonstrate the reason why momentum was lost. A really big fish decided to make a splash and try and drown somebody under his waves. So the entire internet made a tsunami and drowned the koi in his small fish pond that is Twitch. And then made savage of him, made sashimi of him on YouTube. And he hates it.
Idea of live service games as a whole, I get it. Don't play live service games then. Don't agree to those terms.
No, he's getting a new thing wrong now. We're not against them existing, we're against them being destroyed with no recourse for the customer.
PirateSoftware then goes on to talk about like the business practice of misleading consumers into thinking that what they're buying is a product as opposed to a license to a product, which is a totally separate thing, and then he criticizes Stop Killing Games for not being specific about that thing that he is bringing up as opposed to what Stop Killing Games is talking about, so he's using that against them for some reason, and then Ross goes into like the license talk.
Our problem is not with licenses failing to inform people. Blizzard says they can take away your purchase for no reason. That sounds pretty clear to me. Our problem is those terms are so hostile to consumers and the medium that they should be taken off the table entirely. This needs regulation. Forget video games. If you look at basic commerce for hundreds of years, when you paid money, you either got to keep what you paid for, or if it was a service, you were told when your access ends. The vast majority of online-only games do neither of those.
He's exactly right. That is a huge problem. Now, PirateSoftware is correct here about these companies that will mislead consumers through this fraudulent advertising on what you're actually buying, because in a lot of cases, you don't own any of the shit that you're buying. It is pretty much a rental. You get a permission slip to access the content. That is an issue, and not making it abundantly clear to consumers that that is what you are buying is a problem, and so too is the actual agreements, as Ross demonstrates with Blizzard, where it says they can just completely terminate it for no reason at all. It really does.
Realistically, when we're asking for a service, as I've said before multiple times, especially with the example that Horror brought up about Final Fantasy XIV, if a person gets access to the game by buying a copy, but then they have to pay for a perpetual state of an updo of a subscription fee, the amount of money that they would lose is in the thousands per player. The DLC, the transactions, the DLC unlocks, direct purchases, blase, It's too much. And mind you, this is in the era of where you go to the game store and you buy a game box code that comes with a retail copy of something like Guild Wars 2 before they made it free to play, and thus made your ability to buy the expansion pack an addition. Now let me double check that, because that might be wrong. No, that is actually still accurate. So, Guild Wars 2, Heart of Thorns, Path of Fire, End of Dragons, Secrets of the Obscure, and Yammer Wilds. This is something you have to get as a download directly that you can buy from the store. Each one probably has a price. Yammer Wilds starts at $19.99. You can play Guild Wars for free. Expansions 1 and 2 are $11.99. Expansion 3 is $17.99. Expansion 4 is $17.49. Expansion 5 is $19.99. The fact that each one of them has an explicit price and they're not all tied together and knocked down, this is the equivalent of having to pay for membership to try to get involved in all the DLCs that exist for Final Fantasy XIV. First buying your base game, then buying the DLCs for them. Which, to compare that in Steam, let's just look at that on the page. You'd have to buy your copy. You'd be getting Dawn Trail. You got your online starter edition, which is basically $20. And then you got all this shit over here. And these are just soundtracks. This even count for what you're buying from the shops. Especially considering the fact that for the newcomers, the additions that they'll buy are going to include Realm Reborn, the base game, the first and second expansions of Heaven's Word and Stormblood, and also including a 30-day free play trial. Only applying onto a single platform for a single service account. While Square Enix accounts that are already registered to the Starter Edition not being eligible for the Final Fantasy XIV Online free trial. And still requiring game registration, which then binds you to the TOS and the EULA. Somehow, this is still more fairly priced than that game. Crazy. It is some shit. Some shit. Some shit. Moving forward.
I think it's time we talk about a really important thing.
Of commerce entirely. Video games are in a totally different ballgame when it comes to that, because half the time you don't realize that you're just buying an admission ticket to a game. You're not actually buying the game. You also don't know how long that's going to last. Again, to go back to Concord, that shit lasted less than a fucking, fucking rainstorm, basically. Like, there's just so many problems. So I don't know why PirateSoftware would be so harsh on Stop Killing Games for not addressing specific things that he himself is bringing up or making up in regards to it. It just doesn't compute. It really is a video that did significant damage to an actually positive initiative that aimed to help consumers in the video game space. All based on his complete misrepresentation of it, which was a complete mess.
If you try to tell me that every studio needs to run their live service game indefinitely or not run one at all, then no one's going to run them.
Oh no! He wheeled out that line about publishers having to support the game forever. He was literally watching the video earlier where it says it won't do that in big letters. That wasn't enough. We just can't stop gamers from going there, even when we spell it out.
That's the last clip I want to show from this section on the PirateSoftware video, but it's a very important one because this is something a lot of people also think the Stop Killing Games initiative is about, where developers, publishers will have to support their games forever. Like, until the fucking heat death of the universe, they'll have to support these games under the initiative. When that is not the case. It is very simply asking that when the game has reached the end of its life cycle, the publishers, developers don't want to work on it any longer, to turn it over to the community to still be in a playable, accessible state so the product can still exist. There's some more nuance, obviously, to how that works, given like publisher-developer licensing and a lot of like the code, the binary, that kind of thing. There is a lot at play under the hood there, of course, but it is something that Stop Killing Games isn't naive to, and it is something that is talked about. But I'm not going to dive too deep into it. I encourage you to check more in on it. But this whole belief that it is about endlessly supporting a live service game, even when it makes no sense to do so and it's beyond dead and in the dirt, is ridiculous, because that is not what it is asking for. And a lot of people think that it is. It's not.
It's so easy to just simply understand that once it's in the hands of the players will be able to do so many more creative things that the other team would not have been allowed to do because of just simply the legal team, let alone the actual technical restraints that they would have had on hand. Considering what's currently happening to Destiny 2, that's hilarious in and of itself. But that's just the power of community, baby. But on the other hand, then you have the bullshit that actually comes here as proxy of
Charlie's admittance about the situation.
PirateSoftware got that wrong as well. Anyway, I'll stop yapping about it, but as mentioned in the beginning, most of Stop Killing Games hasn't been successful in getting change. And Ross has dedicated so much of his life to this, and it's clearly taken a big toll. Now he's doing everything he can for this last-ditch push to try and help. And there are two big things coming up that can do so. And it's what I linked at the very beginning of the at the very beginning of the video about the resources in the description. It's in regards to this.
One is for the
And then, the PirateSoftware
I have no
situation.
doubt most of you have noticed over the last 10 or 11 months, I've been a lot happier. Glowing, really radiant. You can tell probably just from my voice alone and this striking smile. So what is the secret to this newfound happiness of mine? The one trick doctors don't want you to know? I haven't been online as much. I've been going outside far more frequently, spending time in the real world. And as such, I'm sure many of you have noticed over the last 10 or 11 months, internet drama hasn't been a huge focal point of the channel because I haven't seen a whole bunch of it. I haven't kept up with the vast majority of it. And of course, occasionally I've still dipped my tootsies in some of it, like if there's something particularly wacky going on, and I still cover like news and crazy shit going on with aliens and all of that kind of thing, or if there's like a really cringe, prankster that got arrested or something, I'll still talk about that. But it's not like a fixation for me like it used to be over the last few years where I was covering any and all internet creator space hoopla. And I want to keep it that way. I'm having a lot more fun not doing that.
A lot of this is preamble, and we're going to fast forward to the section where he begins to talk about him talking to PirateSoftware.
That entire community is so butt mad at me for putting out a video 10 months ago about their stuff, and then not being refuted, and now it's my fault that everything's going wrong for them.
I cannot believe his ego. His ego is so out of control, I feel like he's only a week or two away from exclusively referring to himself in third person, like Stone Cold fucking Steve Austin. And that's the truth, because PirateSoftware said so. Some shit like that. It's crazy how he's responded. The smugness is nails on a chalkboard. It just makes you feel icky listening to it. And he goes on that same talking point multiple times in the clip about how, like, oh, I guess I'm fully to blame. I guess because I made those videos 10 months ago, it's my fault entirely that this whole thing crashed and burned. Yep, oh boy, time to play a sad song on the world's smallest violin for the Stop Killing Games movement, all because Big Bad PirateSoftware took it all down by himself. Like, it's crazy. No one's saying that. Like, there's no one out there that is saying it's entirely PirateSoftware's fault that Stop Killing Games hasn't been more successful in its endeavors. But
to be truthful and be honest, there are several people who are saying this. There are several people who have made specific streams dedicated to claiming that he is doing this, while also then mocking him about Moldovy's victory. For some reason, people care a lot more about the furry shit than they do about the being an asshole to people in general shit. But me, personally, I don't care about the furry stuff. Not because I don't find it interesting. It's because it's not the most relevant thing to the course of the conversation. And by design, if you were to mention it, the opinion that you would have, even though he's already doing it, would be removed, while he goes out of his way to ban the people who do it.
There's irrefutable evidence that you had a detrimental effect, a majorly damaging effect on Stop Killing Games because of your misinformation that you spread about it in 2 videos and across all your streams, and not once have you bothered to correct that record. And he has said that it hasn't been refuted in 10 months. That is fish paste. That is turbo horseradish. Go to your own comment section on your videos to see everyone refuting you, as well as the innumerable other gamers and voices out there that have taken down those talking points and debunked a lot of them and proven that you just didn't understand it. And that is the big problem. No one hates PirateSoftware because he doesn't agree with Stop Killing Games. The reason so many people are angry at him, myself included here, you can disagree with the movement all you want. If you don't like the initiative, I'm not your fucking dad. You make your own choices there. But the reason so many people, myself included, do not like how PirateSoftware is handling all this is he is outright refusing to just admit any level of fault, that he was wrong about anything. And that couldn't be more clear from these clips as well as his tweets that he's made. It's actually his tweets that really sent me off the fucking rails here, off my board. Let's start with this little nugget here that he deleted from last night. So he tweeted directly at Russ, the guy behind Stop Killing Games, talking about how he made those videos 10 months ago, and since then, his community has been nothing but hateful. A scourge. A fucking tyranid threat that he must destroy. Your community is fucking rabid, and it's shit to deal with for anyone on the other side of the argument. Why do you think I haven't talked about this shit in 10 months? Why do you think you auto-mute anyone bringing it up in chat? Because it's been rage bait and shit flinging the entire time. And just goes on about like how he is the victim of Ross's toxic, terrible community, which is hilariously hypocritical coming from PirateSoftware, when in his videos and his streams, he makes it very clear and is very rude about how much he dislikes not only Ross, but the movement. And it's not like he's being very professional and polite about it, buttoned up. Listen to it.
So this was my first encounter of him.
Oh shit, no, this is actually really dumb. It's used car salesman garbage. This is shit. It's shit. Not only do I not want to back this, I'm gonna actively tell people not to. That is awful. That is a horrible goddamn direction. That's awful, dude. No, eat my entire ass. The level of stupid that I just had to receive was like sitting on Twitter for 12 hours. This shit sucks. That's a really stupid ass move. That's an incredibly stupid ass move. I think this is ass. This is complete garbage. All of this.
Fast forwarding a bit.
He's finally setting the record straight there. Anyway, he did delete that tweet, but just a little while ago, he made a new tweet, a very long tweet, as well as a series of tweets under it in regards to this whole thing. And in all these words, all this mumbo-jumbo, not once does he say he was wrong about anything. In fact, he just continues to double down, even proudly stating he is doubling down. Wow, how incredibly noble, doubling down on things you are provably, blatantly wrong about. We don't need to hit the Jumbotron for the replay on yesterday's video going over so many of the things that he was incorrect about in regards to the initiative. But the point is, that is an issue that I really thought that he would address. Be like, hey, yeah, I did get this part wrong. You're right, guys. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to misrepresent it. I still don't fully agree with it, but I do recognize that I had some errors here in my coverage. That's what I was expecting. That is not what we got. And it prompted me to reach out directly to him, to talk to him, to see, like, why isn't he acknowledging that? Is there a reason? Like, what is going on there? So I did. He made it very clear he was not very happy with my coverage of Stop Killing Games, which is fine. I think that's totally fine. I'm not going to leak DMs or really go in depth on our private conversation, but the point of me reaching out to him was to talk about his refusal to acknowledge that he did, maybe unintentionally, misrepresent Stop Killing Games, and it led to a just shy of 2 hours, like, circular argument that ultimately got us nowhere. He was more focused on his qualms with Stop Killing Games, and really likes to challenge me to prove him wrong about some of his hang-ups with it, and when I would mention, like, the behavior aspect, like, hey, you did misrepresent it, and I give him a timestamp, he'd then instead say how I'm wrong for thinking that he misrepresented it. We got nowhere. So I want to just publicly say this again. There are plenty of things you can disagree with when it comes to the Stop Killing Games initiative. I'll put links to it if you want to learn more about it. You can form your own opinions on it. If you want to support it, if you don't like it, that's fine. That's super normal. And I didn't reach out to try and champion that PirateSoftware should become, a huge ambassador of Stop Killing Games, out there on the fucking front lines fighting for it. It had nothing to do with that. It was simply about the misunderstanding that he showcased, maybe unintentionally, and the misrepresentation of it that he broadcast, again, maybe unintentionally, which has in turn, over the course of 10 months, misled people on what the fuck Stop Killing Games even is in the first place, which I found to be a problem because he's never even acknowledged that as something that has happened. And because he refuses to acknowledge that, and anyone that even, like, tiptoes around that subject, he kind of treats as though they're fucking idiots, like me, for thinking that he's misrepresenting something. Now, he did...
And that, ultimately, right there, is the key crux behind why he gets so much energy, and he gets so much fault, and he gets so much shit thrown at him, slung at him, and even put on him. Because certainly, if we were still in the frame of saying, oh, this is really all just because of, like, fucking fish tank IRL types of level of parasociality concerning a fucking video game, bro, that's just for the birds. And people would have moved the fuck on from it. In fact, many people really were moving the fuck on from it. But the fact that this could now be used as a way to frame him as the internet bad guy to get Stop Killing Games over the line. A vote for Stop Killing Games is at least a vote to shit in his cereal and piss in his cornflakes. Then that's more than enough. For some people, that motivation pushed them in the direction to do what they wanted. But the thing that is most core crux to that is the fact that, just like earlier, when he's saying nonstop, I can't believe that Josh Strife Hayes supported me, Josh Strife Hayes, Josh Strife Hayes, Josh Strife Hayes, he was speaking to Charlie, literally at the same time that he's talking to Josh Strife Hayes. Josh Strife Hayes even mentions that he was talking to him at the same time as he was talking to Charlie. But he only mentions one content creator, and that's because of his nature of trying to be a size queen. He won't even identify and address the fact that other big figures who know about him, knew who he is, reached out to him and talked to him in private. And even though he can have a distaste of their content and have a distaste of their opinion on the situation, they are able to ask him questions and say, bro, please, break it down to me. Tell me something that I'm missing. I want to assume and I want to know that this was just a mistake, that this was a mishap, that this is you committing some type of emotional investment because you just don't want to have to give a win to a person who's an extremely egregious asshole of a person. Just with me, in private, here. No one's going to see it, no one's going to hear it. Just say that you understand what's going on. That level of behavior where, to the pain, he refused to just simply say, you know what, my bad, I'm tripping. Couldn't do it. It's fucking preposterous and wild. Which then brings us to Jacksepticeye.
That is going to affect a lot of us, and is affecting a lot of us who are into the gaming space, which is the Stop Killing Games initiative. I know a lot of people have been asking me to talk about it for a while. In the beginning, I was like, this is a cool initiative. Sign the petition and everything, let it do its thing. Apparently it's not going as well as people wanted to, and as it should be doing. They're about 700k signatures into the million that they need as of recording this video, and I did make a post about it on the community tab to try and like push it in a different direction on my main channel. The reason I'm doing a video of it here on the Spadicy channel is I don't know what's going on. There's something happening with the algorithm in terms of my channel right now. I've seen it happen to some other channels of similar size to mine, where after I did schedule one, for some reason, I hate to say, like, oh, the algorithm's against me, and they flipped the switch and all this kind of stuff, but sometimes it really just does feel like that. That something happened under the hood. It's happened in the past multiple times. I've talked to some other YouTubers about it. Everyone just seems to be like, hey, my views just disappeared. Like, my main audience aren't getting any of my videos anymore. What's happening? I don't know. It's hard to talk about without it seeming like, oh, bro, you fell off, you're washed, whatever. So I just tend to kind of like stay away from it, see what happens, see what shakes loose, and then get back to uploading again. Something's going on. I don't know what's happening. So to not upload this in a place where the algorithm is in flux for a channel of that size, and again, not knowing if this is actually going to go out to any of the people who are there. Death Stranding went up. Clearly, it's not being served to the people who would normally watch it. It's seen as the previous series on it, on Death Stranding 1, did so well. I don't know. That's a different discussion to have. But I wanted this to try and reach more people, which honestly, weirdly, I think on a second channel, it's going to reach more people right now than it will the main channel. Again, I don't know what's going on, but I'm trying to do as well by this as I can. I'm also going to try and keep this succinct and say the things that I know about it, and try and not spread misinformation about it, because a lot of people have talked about it and talked about it really well. They've given over some really great information. Ross, Accursed Farms, who has designed the initiative, has a very good video talking about it, which I will leave in the description for you to be able to go and get like the weeds of the information about it, because again, I'm going to butcher it, and someone like PirateSoftware has gone out and done a horrible video on it, misrepresenting what it is, giving a ton of misinformation, and actually kind of killing the initiative from the get-go, and then just being very egotistical about it, not saying sorry, and really opening up to it and being like, shit, my bad, and then fixing any of the things that he said were wrong about it. It's a fucking mess. So I want to put my voice to it and my name to it and whatever audience we can get behind it to try and sign this petition, which I will also leave in the description. There's a petition for you to be able to sign it in the EU, and there's a petition for you to be able to sign it in the UK because Brexit and fucking a whole mess of stuff involving that as well, to make it even more difficult to do anything like this in this world. It's happening in the EU right now because Ross himself said that, I mean, again, I don't want to say stuff that's wrong. I'm so sorry if I say anything that is... I'm doing this with the best of intentions. There is a lot of nuance in this, and I'm trying to get the cliff notes right. Again, like somebody else didn't. But basically, stuff in the US is harder to do, and there is a chance to be able to put stuff into law in the EU to be able... at least get it in people's faces. That's the purpose of it now. Hopefully, we go into law to try and like protect games and protect game preservation and all that stuff, and just for the consumers to keep things good for everybody. And the EU has been pretty good at doing certain things in the past, like putting... I think it was the EU that put USB-C chargers in like iPhones and stuff, right? Instead of Apple being able to just sell their proprietary stuff all the time.
That is true. That is also underneath Louis Rossman's Right to Repair Act, which is what then put him into connections with PirateSoftware.
And as he pointed out, people in Australia went after Valve and took them to court to be like, we need some sort of refund policy because it's bullshit that you don't have it. It goes against law for consumers. And then that went through, and then everybody who uses Valve and Steam ended up being able to get a refund through that platform. And I think that's really cool. And there is an initiative to try and do that with games, which at its core is basically to preserve games that, let's say you have a game that there's tons of games out there, for example, that are being supported by developers and they're getting patches, or they're live service games and they're getting a whole bunch of other stuff. And again, there's a lot more nuance to it, and I urge you to go watch Ross's video on it and to try and learn more about it. But at the end of it, it's basically to be like, when a developer wants to stop supporting the game, which inevitably it will, you don't really expect a game to be supported absolutely forever till the end of time, because they're working on new stuff. You can't really support something for like however many people are going to be playing something years in the future, or whatever. And it's unreasonable to expect a developer to support a game forever. I don't think anyone would expect that. It's just, I don't know, in a perfect world, sure, but it's not going to happen. Money talks. But if a developer wants us to stop supporting a game, if they want to kind of God, what's the sunset the game? That's the term I'm looking for. Then to put stuff in place where you can hand it over to the consumers, where they can start supporting it themselves and put stuff out, and we can still enjoy the game, and whatever community for the game is still there, or any game you want to play. People keep using The Crew as a thing because Ubisoft are like, yeah, we're shutting it down, and then the thing you bought is no longer yours, and that's pretty fucked up. Like in a lot of other practices, like maybe this is a bad analogy, but you like buy a Blu-ray movie, you have the movie, you can watch the movie. But for games,
he's summarizing. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit to see if he can get to his own editorialized opinion.
This game anymore, and there's so many people. There's a massive initiative behind it on Reddit. Love making games so much that they want to be involved in them and just give it. And motivate people to kind of like push it over the finish line.
No, so he's just talking passionately about it. Which then takes us to Josh Hayes. 10 months ago, and then his more reflections, and then there should be his video that he has on his content specifically about his opinion. I might even have to go back into my history to find it.
Killing Games initiative. What is my take on the Stop Killing Games initiative? I think it's great. I think it's fantastic. I think Ross is doing a really good job, and we absolutely should be able. There was a thing where who was it that was against it? Was it Thor? He was like, "Oh, if you keep doing this, you know, you'll kill live service games forever." I'm thinking, I'm already on board, mate. You don't need to sell it to me anymore. You've got my vote. This just seems like a little cherry on top. If this passes, there'll be no more live service games. Stop. You know, I can only be convinced so much. The idea essentially is, if a company are going to make a video game, many people are going to love that video game. And in the future, that company might not be able to maintain support for people to enjoy the video game. If the game requires a download, there may not be download servers for it. If the game requires connection to a server, there may not be servers hosted online for it. And the initiative is basically saying, make it possible to play these games once the companies have stopped providing an official way to play them. We're not asking for ownership of the games. We're not even asking for the ability to monetize them. It's not a case of, hey, you've finished with your game, now let me make money from it. It's a case of, right, you no longer want to pay the cost to maintain your game. That's fine. I would like to host a private server for it and allow my friends to play it, which is great. If you think about Stop Killing Video Games, I've got a Sega Master System. Classic old original Sega Master System. If I plug that into a TV that can take it, put a cartridge in, I can play the game. I've got a PlayStation 1. You put a CD in, you can play the game. Purchasing those games did not give me copyright exclusive holder rights to them. It didn't make me the owner of them. What it did give me was the ability to play them for as long as I have the hardware and the software needed to play that game. The Stop Killing Games initiative is essentially saying, hey, once the company that make the game and owns the game and has made money off the game, once you stop supporting it, give support to give the community the ability to support it themselves, which is fine. Like a personal example, Otherland.
Another example of a person getting it right, and then here's what I was looking for here, which is where he then spoke on PirateSoftware and the SGK movement as of 6 days ago. I have to click through some of this.
Play book. And I'll tell you what I'm going to play book.
It's got a lot of stun lock inside of it.
That's not what it is. You don't bully someone into agreeing with you. So much hate. Who hates the people they don't like? To me, that's harm to before. I disagree with PirateSoftware. I still think he deserves a level of safety, a level of respect, a level of civility, a level of basic human decency. I can disagree with his position strongly, while still not wanting harm to befall him, while still not wanting to see him mentally suffer. And some people, they focus on the revenge, the vindication, more than the actual achieving of an actual possible goal, or being, you know, a decent human being. So I messaged him up.
And that's 100% on God, on squad. There are so many users that are just dedicated to being a thorn in his side, and in situations where it's relevant, being a thorn in the side of whoever they perceive to be the monster that they're trying to fight. And it's so gay. It's so gay and lame. I can understand the energy behind it. I can understand the desire. And I can see that in that way, I'm doing my part, but what if you didn't? Mainly for the reason that your actions will be used against the whole, and so any person who did that, you are effectively now responsible for giving him the ammunition to dismiss other people for the antics that you did.
Afterwards, and I said, look, you are my opponent in this specific intellectual battle, but you are not my enemy on a personal basis. I don't know enough about your life to want to hate you, and even if I did hate you, I wouldn't want to put any energy of mine into hating you. You forget that there are people who just, they will spend their entire life, they will spend their free time sending hate to people they don't like. To me, that's unconscionable. It's weird. If I have free time, I'm going to go and paint some Warhammer. I'm going to play some video games. I'm going to go back and rewrite more. You don't bully someone into agreeing with you. You don't beat someone into thinking that you're the rules. There's still a standard that we all kind of abide by. So let's all have a level of respect for each other. Let's do that. That level of respect, that code is gone on the internet. It's absolutely completely gone. I think a lot of people forget that the point of a discussion is not to beat the other person into agreeing with you. That's not what it is. You don't bully someone into agreeing with you. You don't beat someone into thinking that you're correct. Ain't the way it works at all. But people think it is.
The fact that this has happened because of Pirate Software trying to browbeat his position in other people, and if he's not able to successfully win them over, or they demonstrate a negative opinion to try to blanket block them and try to deny them access to knowledge information, is so fucking annoying and petty, beyond all belief, to the point of stupidity. I would only like to hope that he's not banning people on YouTube, and banning people on Twitch, and banning people on TikTok, as he will ban people on the equivalent of Reddit. But it's very obvious that they're doing it in such a capacity where it only creates the outcome where negativity thrives and reigns because no one's willing to try to stop and understand each other and meet each other halfway, which was my point earlier as well.
And this brings up the final point I'll bring up on this. Before we play a book,
Hello,
PirateSoftware prides himself on being a very logical human being. He prides himself on the idea that he can look at a situation and objectively analyze it from many different angles. And he has skills that I don't. I don't know the first thing about game development. I don't know the first thing about coding. To me, tricking a rock into thinking is magic. I have no idea how coding works at all. I won't even claim to. The closest I've ever got is I downloaded an old RPG Maker toolkit called Toolkit 2 years ago. And obviously I bought RPG Maker when it went on Steam sale for like £5 and I never used it because I can't do that. I'm not that clever. So he has skills and abilities that I absolutely do not have, and he prides himself on using these to logically follow through any kind of process to where he gets it. But this is skipping over probably the single most important thing that you need to remember when dealing with people. Human beings are not logical. We are not logical beings whatsoever. And ironically, Pirate proves this when, if pushed back specifically about game development, he himself gets emotional. And that's totally okay. Human beings are emotional things. I get angry, I get annoyed, I get upset, I get really excited when stuff happens. And this is what I think a lot of logical people forget. Human beings do not want to agree with whom is correct. They want to agree with who they like.
100% true. At the end of the day, the biggest thing that's so annoying to me when it comes to stop killing games, and that I have in general when it comes to public opinions about situations that are one part spectacle as much as they are a movement and a message, is that they are popularity contests. Ultimately, I'm presenting to you the opinion of people who have been elevated to a position of status that have some type of mandate that we trust to be truthful enough for us to glean the information necessary to get a viewpoint perspective into where they're coming from. Charlie wants to understand why Pirate Software is so committed to not being able to apologize in any way possible and not willing to admit that he has fault and blame to take. People like Ross want to know why he misunderstands the movement on such a categorical level and then refuse to be responsible for how his interpretations and misinterpretations actively lied to people. There are people like Josh Strife Hayes who wants people to simply learn how to have conversations and wants to ask, like, how did you even arrive at this outcome? How did you even get here in order for us to do this? And now, wrapping this up because we are approaching midnight soon, I show you the opinion of Frost of Riviera, which is to say, the other Frost. Ooh, somebody racing. I can hear them on the highway. They racing.
I've never felt so voyeuristic while doing research before. At one point I realized I was watching this man, watch this man, watch this man, watch this man. Let's get some more in here. At this rate, we're just a couple more dudes watching dudes away from world peace. Say hello.
True! Now you're a man watching him. Like, now you're a dude watching a dude watching a dude talk about a dude watching another dude!
On the Stop Killing Games initiative. On the screen you can see his own words spelling out the movement. In plain speak, the petition's to try and get the EU government to take a closer look at publishers that are selling video games or selling stuff in video games and then taking it all away. This is not a draft bill or any attempt at legislation, but rather an attempt to try to get the conversation started amongst politicians. If you're a resident of the EU or the UK, then the links will be in the description. The UK petition has only until the 15th of July, and the EU petition ends at the end of July. It's kind of close, but there's been a massive surge of activity following the last 8 days. 8 days ago, the UK petition was at 15,000, and the EU petition was at 400,000. This new wave of support is most likely because Ross finally decided to take off the gloves and address how big streamer and content creator Pirate Software misrepresented the initiative.
His ego is so out of control, I feel like he's only a week or two away from exclusively referring to himself in third person, like Stone Cold fucking Steve Austin. And that's the truth, because Pirate Software said so.
Am I a little bit angry at Pirate Software for misrepresenting this initiative and still constantly becoming the lightning rod for just not, presenting it in a good faith manner? Yes, absolutely.
So when Pirate Software has gone out and done a horrible video on it, misrepresenting what it is, giving a ton of misinformation and actually kind of killing the initiative from the get-go, and then just being very egotistical about it, not saying sorry and really opening up to it and being like, shit, my bad, and then fixing any of the things that he said were wrong about it, it's a fucking mess.
Pirate Software once again is responding to criticism. Multiple creators have been calling him out for how he's misrepresented the movement, Charlie, Mudahar, and more. Yet, instead of engaging in good faith, he's chosen to triple down, inventing demands that were never mentioned in the original Accursed Farms video. He's taken to Twitter to paint himself a victim, calling the criticism dogpiling, while once again fixating on the vague language that was contained within the initiative and pretending like a petition is a formal legislative proposal rather than what it actually is, a grassroots call for consumer protection.
I will mention that in passing from time to time, but I don't want to make this video about Pirate Software. I want to make this video about you, and why you should support the initiative, because it comes down, to me at least, to plain and simple consumer rights. And I don't mean the modern mutation of consumerism that leaves your shopping cart fat, your wallet thin, and your brain starving for dopamine. To me, it's about creating an even playing field for both buyers and sellers. Yes, both. If the buyers are too powerful, then no one will sell anything. If the sellers are too powerful, they end up owning the buyers. One should not be allowed to get the upper hand over the other. And for that, you need a referee, the government. And as far as...
True. At the end of the day, people forget that this is a business that they are in the business of. They are in the business of selling us stuff that we want to play. And we are in the business, or rather, we're in the marketplace to buy things that we haven't experienced yet. And in the inevitable rat race, where one has to compete in an arms race of entertainment versus the supply and demand of the content that is available, we do not have the right to tell them that, I know you want to sell me the game for $70, but actually I'm going to buy it only for a single dollar. It's not like a Bandcamp purchase for an album where a base minimum purchase is suggested of $15, but you could pay $1, but you wouldn't get the bonus track. Where the bonus track is the expansion / digital deluxe version that would cost $78.47, but instead you buy the base game of something like Clear Obscure, and it only costs you $1.99, or if you're a female streamer, a lifetime supply subscription to your OnlyFans backlog of content. It should not function in a way where one hand does not shake hands with the other. Because if we're not able to join hands on basic issues, then it's basically two litigious teams fighting each other from the opposite side of the context without the ability to understand what one hand is doing to the other. You have creators that will say something and not have access to the modders and the hackers and the developers to better instrumentate methods to facilitate the conversation, while consumers make demands saying buy, sell, me, mine, I want, now, without anybody to tell them, bro, you can't be like this. Because unfortunately nobody's willing to be the cheerleader or the referee that decides it to happen. And as much as we love the government, unfortunately the government has to be the fucking referee here, not the consumers. The biggest reason of all reasons why SKG could even be viewed in the same light as Gamergate 1 or Gamergate 2 is that in Gamergate 1 we wanted journalism and ethics. We did not want a person who was an upstart newcomer jumping the line and getting unfair and uncritical press from people she was soliciting personal favors or sexual favors from, while at the same time having a journalistic class that dedicated themselves to the death of the response from the consumers, who they said to the business industry, they're irrelevant, they're dead, their money isn't green, they are not your audience anymore. And the consequences that that action had on the conversation with the developers at the time. With Gamergate 2 being litigation of, and another thing, alongside having ethics in journalism, you don't need to leave me the fuck alone when I choose to have an opinion on internet.com. Because if you think I'm gonna let a journalist stop me from owning my video games because they don't like the fact that I made a list where I said I don't recommend this game, then you got another motherfucking thing coming. Which is an actual legitimate concern and an actual legitimate threat. Because it is not underneath the potential for broadcasters, developers, community members, journalists, trolls, to be able to stop somebody from having access to their content just because they decided the person in question deserved to be punished in their mindset. This is where the names like Clara Sorrenti and Alyssa Mercante and Dave Paul Riviera come in, because known lolcows and known toxic trolls, where in the past it would have been Nina Sarkeesian, and before and after her it would have been Zoe Quinn, and after her it would have been Francesca Ramsey, and after her Lauren Tiffany and Sue Cooper, or so on and so on and so on, where known lolcows and known jokes of individuals who are dedicated to trying to make consumer revolt happen, and they're not able to successfully do so in a meaningful way that they can actually achieve for content purposes, choose to antagonize people at a distance, arm's length away, where they don't engage, but you don't engage either, and it's just two sides slinging shit over a wall. there is a world where you shouldn't have somebody effectively trying to take away your content just because they have a negative reaction to the opinion. Because it goes back to what was said by Josh Dreyfus. There needs to be rules of engagement. And unfortunately, amongst the people that find themselves in this position, where I'm standing, metaphorically, there is no interaction with this goal that is considered fair. Because every single fucking time, every time we attempt to have these conversations, it's an escalation. Gamergate 1 escalated from, gamers are dead, they're irrelevant, developers don't listen to what they have to say, listen to us, the journalists, who don't play video games enough, because we're trying to maximize our content, and it went to, you, right there, you, yes you, the Ultra Ego Vegeta Pro Project is in chat, I'm banning your Steam account, because you called me a dumb wink. What's the next step? Yes, that's single player Carl. That is single player Carl. Ban his YouTube, ban his Twitch, ban his Kick too. Also ban his PayPal. Restrict his credit union account and freeze his assets. Also, fuck his wife. Make him watch. Hold his eyes open like this. It gets personal. Way too fucking much. And not just in the content sense. Like, content is content. You're either going to farm or you're going to be farmed. But I'm talking specifically down in the doonies. The level that they've gone after people like Ethan Klein. And why Ethan Klein's suing the fucking orbiters around Hassan Piker. The anti-Semitic squad. The ass. The litigious desire not only to steal, but explicitly to harass people into silence. By proxy, because you have the right TM opinion. That shit has to stop. Because if it's not handled by the government, and it's not handled in a court of law, there's only one place where it goes left. And that's the court of public opinion, and then it's an angry mob on your ass. It shouldn't be like this. Certainly, truthfully, Sudwin, it has been like this before. But it keeps escalating. There's no stopping.
As far as digital ownership is concerned, the referee needs to wake up and get with the times. Let's start with the rights that I think are most definitely being infringed on. The most blatant one is a buyer's right to be informed. Milk has an expiration date. I know when Netflix subscription ends, my vacuum comes with a 90-day warranty. These are all things I'm made aware of before I make a purchase. In contrast, video games are shy and downplay the potential deal breakers. In my opinion, this whole fiasco could be avoided if a game that has the risk of being made unavailable one day stated it loud and clear. The industry doesn't want better signage because it might cost them sales. As an example, if I buy Black Ops 6 from Sony, the store page says online play required and PS Plus required for online play. Helldivers 2 also says online play required and PS Plus required for online play. These two games are sold in the exact same way, but do not have the same online needs. If I don't have internet or the servers go down, I can still play the campaign, zombies, or multiplayer with bots on Black Ops 6. But Helldivers 2 is completely left at the mercy of my connection to the servers. I'm not saying there shouldn't be Helldivers 2. I'm not saying there shouldn't be games that can only be played online. I'm not demonizing live service games, nor is this even exclusive to live service games. They're just more vulnerable right now. My ideal bare minimum ask is that there needs to be better signage. Now to get into the rights that are maybe not being infringed upon, but are becoming murky. Stuff that we can't really agree is or isn't a violation of consumer rights, but needs to be relooked at. And for that, I present to you digital ownership as a whole. This is one spot where conversation spins its wheels because online consumerism has evolved faster than commerce laws can adapt. In the terms of service of any video game, you will undoubtedly find a line somewhere that says you are not buying a video game. You are buying a license to play a video game that can be revoked for any reason whatsoever at any point in time. Again, the biggest thing for me there is it's a transparency issue. I'd like that front and center on the cover and in the game store instead of behind the dumpster in the back alley where no one reads it. I also don't like this idea that terms of services can be amended at any point in time after purchase, and your only choices are either consent or lose access.
Now, my feeling about this, the problem is that people don't read. They don't read, they don't understand, they don't learn, and then they complain about something that they never had the ability to understand the legalese of. I know that there are multiple services that have specialized in, instead of just giving you a feature, it makes you scroll the window. And the problem is that people are able to just, oh, I'm being forced to read, and click. That has to stop. Because you are signing a contract, you need to read the fucking bylaws. You have to read the fucking bylaws. The same way that you have to read the legalese in order to be able to sign a movement so you can put signage onto a petition, you need to read the legalese of the contract that you're signing, even for a video game, so you understand if you're going to be able to keep your shit or not. And unfortunately, because the nature of people just saying, fuck, get your shit out of my way, I'm trying to get to the game, It's skipped every time. So, mobile browser games have gone the way of the dodo and have been replaced by MOBAs, coming from companies like League of Legends, Dota 2, MOBAs like here's New Earth, Paragon, so on and so on and so on, or Helldivers, because the lobby-based system of PvP VE requires you to put money on the lines, because at the end of the day, someone's going to pay somebody to gank me in the game. Obviously, avoid that nature. Just sideswipe the entire hyper-toxic nature of it. Remove the possibility of headhunting. And just simply, I played a video game. I'm live on channel. I play game with people in chat room. I enjoy self. Move on with life. Even then, there are people who are going to say, wait, I paid for my Helldivers too, though. I've spent so much on microtransactions. And they just simply don't understand the nature of what they're having asked to get into, let alone the arguments that have been presented by PirateSoftware. They're just completely off the fucking mark. Since it's already murky and it's already difficult in getting away from us to begin with any goddamn ways.
Keep in mind that this is not universal. Terms of service does not beat law. And some people might show up and say, well, it's because there's so many licenses in video games. There were licenses in video games before. Respectfully, I disagree. I believe that this is the effect, not the cause. General audiences didn't ask for licensing culture. The industry either chose to deal this way or gave up their bargaining power and assumed the money could be made up on the consumer side. Unity tried to pull some licensing shenanigans, and the developers made it quite clear that for as much as they liked the game engine, they were not going to put up with the new terms. So the terms were walked back. That is how you send feedback for change. Too many people, as soon as they hear they're getting a raw deal, walk away from the table or just tank it to the face. So nothing changed.
So, when people say things like, if you don't like it, don't buy it, this is where paying and speaking with your wallet comes into effect. This is basically the reason why, despite people's desire to play something like The Sims, why it's impossible to get into The Sims 3 or The Sims 4. You could probably play The Sims, you could probably play The Sims 2, you could probably play Enzoy, considering how simple it is to play that game, but The Sims 3, The Sims 4, forget the fucking mods, bro. Forget the porn and sex mods, bro. Just playing the base game itself. How much money are you willing to spend to get that experience? Let's look it up, chat. The Sims 3, $19.99. If you do it with EA Play, you start at $5.99 a month. Or $39.99 a month for 12 months. 44% off discount. And just look. Look at the lines! Look at the lines, chat! I'm gonna make it bigger! You can see it against the white of my shirt. Actually, no. Let me position it just like this. Let me get it on the blue. It's a $50 knockoff. The base game for each DLC is $20! Each! $20 each! And it still comes up to shy of $200. You include the base game, it is $200 plus. And that's just for fucking 3, bro. What about The Sims 4? The Sims 4 is free. And of course, it's also being included with EA Play. And then, look at how long the list is, bro. Look at how long the list is. We have to browse this by actual DLC. Or rather, I'd like to list it by expansion pack. The expansion packs, seemingly $39.99, $39.99, $39.99. Some of them are 38% off and it's $24.79. Some of them are 60% off and it's $15.99. Some of them are 50% off and it's $19.99. Let's list it by discount. The smallest discount is 20% off. The biggest discounts are 60% off. There's over 99 expansions to The Sims 4. And you're signing a licensing agreement. You're signing a licensing agreement when you're playing it on EA Plus or EA Play. This is comparative to Ubisoft. This is comparative to EA, not EA Games, to EGS, to the Epic Games Store. You're paying for a subscription to access this content, and it is not included with the full edition of all accessible material. To put this into context, for people who are bad at numbers, assuming you're bad at numbers, let's use an easy example. So for the easy example, let's use a game that has DLC that is intended to be a single-player product, such as Darkest Dungeon. Rest in peace, Wayne June. Darkest Dungeon right now is being sold for 85% off. The game itself is meant to cost $24.99. The DLC for the game is somewhere between the realms of 50 to 40 to 50% off, because the DLC for the Purchase Circus is free, as is the Musketeer, and the soundtrack is $2, 80% off. $5, $3, $2, $3.47, and then the Ancestral Edition, which includes multiple copies of it knocked off, 85%, 80%, 50, 50, 40. 3, let's round that up to $4, $4, $2, $5, $2, $2. One DLC of The Sims is more expensive than all the DLC of this game that is a AA development product. And that's just the first game. What about the Iron Crown bundle for Darkest Dungeon 1 and 2? For just the base games. 85% off, $3, technically $4. 50% off Darkest Dungeon 2, $40, currently $20. Let's look at its DLC. A little bit more close to being inside the realm, don't mean to click on that, being inside the realm of relative nature. All of this together for the content, $24.46. Not counting for the Hero Origin Pack. $9, $9, $9, $5. And this is after they developed the first game. Because it, too, has its own Darkest Dungeon EULA. Mainly because it has workshop content. That's the main reason why it has it. It has a workshop. So, if you own this game, you have the ability to download content. And so, it has the licensing agreement for your ability to play it. As well as your access to pictures, your ownership, blah, 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 blah. It's all there, in black and white. But they're much more upfront about it, and that's why it has a mostly positive rating. Because they've always been upfront about it, and they've always been honest when they have to do that work. Let me make sure this shit's not inside my shit so that I don't accidentally cost myself money later. The compartmentalization of the knowledge of how this material is worked on in a way to make this shit fair is explicitly unfair in the world of just basic computing, let alone Digital Millennium copyright, let alone the terms of service, let alone the end user license agreement. I would smack the shit out of any of you if you paid that goddamn money. You're smoking crack! That's like double a down payment on a fucking car! Let me find out when y'all paid $700 to play a fucking simulator game. You could have been playing Bejeweled with tits. In fact, how much is Honey Popped? I'm not playing it on camera. I'm not even going to let that be seen on camera. But I'm just simply going to take a screenshot of the price, and I'm going to show that to you. Honey Popped right now is $10, but it's technically $20.
And that doesn't even actually include the actual bundle for the video games themselves, some of which I already own, so I had to get a discount off anyways. It's egregiously stupid how much money this actually is, bro. A porn game that is effectively bejeweled with tits would be $10 and a total sale of $12.57 to have both of them, plus the fucking soundtrack. That's ridiculous. You would get infinite more value and infinite more pleasure by playing a porn game with puzzle elements. A porn game with puzzle elements. Or a meta progression system game, or a true single-player campaign game for under $30, then $700 plus for what's supposed to be the best game simulator god game builder known to man, at least as a franchise. Which should tell you the reason why Inzoi was all the rave back when that game was getting launched. It wasn't just the cats. But I digress. I fucking digress, chat. Let's wrap up so I can go eat. I'm hungry.
Changes because companies only get feedback from people with more money than spine, or people who aren't their customer base. Here's the magic words. I like your product, but I don't like your business. This sends a signal that there is money to be made with some negotiations. We don't know what can and can't be negotiated because the last 10 plus years have just been go, go, go. And the industry now is relying on that trajectory withstanding. It's a catch-22. We need Stop Killing Games to sort out old problems, but we can't talk about Stop Killing Games without getting caught up in old problems. But if we're not being stalled out by old problems, we're also being stalled out by new, future, hypothetical problems on the developer side.
And that's 100% true too, because that's the holding pattern that we're stuck in. And that, technically, to me, is the greatest fucking sin. Especially in the context of the opinion that is being said by PirateSoftware, whether he's doing it in the context of one dimension of, aha, it's kayfabe. I actually made you guys care about this because I made you upset and I wanted you to be on this, to be on my side. So I played a villain. Or the other two realities where my ego is this big and my cock is this big that I can tell you all you're wrong. I can block you. I can lie about you. I can delete the evidence and no one will know. Or I have such a big ego, and these people are hurting my feelings. That he is determined to create a holding pattern whereby misconstruing the information, whether he understands what the fuck he's saying, the rest of us don't, that the business is scared to actually greet and meet hands with the developers and the consumers. Basically, you might own rights. I consent to this conversation. I don't consent to this conversation. And they also said my dick was little. It's so stupid. It's so stupid. It should not be a consent meme, but it is. And it's not just PirateSoftware that does this. This is the same litigious bullshit that even Randy Pitchford does. That's why there's no energy around Borderlands 4. All of the energy that existed as a franchise for that particular developer existed in Borderlands 2. That was the snapshot of how far and for how long Borderlands as a franchise was. Forget the nepotism siblings. Forget the nepotism siblings. Ashley and Anthony Birch are not what killed the game, but they definitely didn't help. Her for her nepotism of voice acting and thinking that she's basically God's gift to voice acting. Him for believing he's God's gift to writing and actively leaning into being an internet bad guy. Randy Pitchford was the reason why that company is losing its momentum and why the fourth game has basically a dead-on-arrival sense of expectation. The same way that you could blame Clifford Bleszinski. That's such a stupid name. Clifford Bleszinski was responsible for the death of multiple games under his ownership. Lawbreakers, Radical Heights, etc. He does not, and they do not, both of them, both men, Botham. Boffum, Botham, are responsible for the death of their games and their studios. Not just for jumping onto trends, but for actively not understanding people. Lest we forget the real gamers will find ways to make it played. Sure, I can find a way to pay a game full price, or I can wait 1.5 years and I can get that bitch off on, I believe it's still at the highest price that I gave before. somewhere between 70 to 85% off. Let me check my media. 95. I misremembered. 95% off, which means that the base edition of Borderlands 3 is currently $3. Let me show directly on the website. I can't type. And it is being fucking review bombed into the ground because of what they did with Borderlands 2. But $3. $3. $3. It is $3. And the Super Edition bundle that has everything would be $16. For context, that number is actually $80. They want you to buy the Super Deluxe Edition for $80. And Borderlands 3 at a standard of $59.99. By the way, this sale only ends on July 10th. So you got like 5 more days to buy this if you want to. Play with your friends, play with your mom, play with your dad, play with your son. And then the Pandora's Box collection for everything that's from Borderlands 1 to the pre-sequel. 90% off. $30.49. Getting reduced to a concurrent price for me, which is lower than that. Which would have been a savings of $142.77. And the majority of that shit is cosmetics that don't actually affect anything in the game. Not accounting for, you know, the copy of Borderlands the pre-sequel, obviously. That is such a ridiculous amount of money. It's such a ridiculous amount of money. Meanwhile, across the pond, if you want to talk about value at a rate that is relative to access, not this and not this, but this, Star Wars Battlefront 2, until July 10th, 90% off. $39.99, $4. And it's still at the mercy of the same EULA shit concerning EA Plays, the third-party EULA for Star Wars Battlefront 2 specifically, the third-party account system for EA accounts, and its supporting of the linking to a Steam account, as well as the third-party DRM for EA Online and the Origin client, and its background use being required for matchmaking. Which is what all of us are trying to talk about. What Stop Killing Games wants to do is it wants to stop this. Right here. I'm using my fingers as angle brackets. This right here. This right here. These 4 boxes. This is what Stop Killing Games wants to do. Take this out. I buy this game. I don't need a proprietary Origin software launcher. I don't need to read and sign EULA agreements outside of what I already would have been signing for online PvP by having made a Steam account as a part of the VAC ban system and not needing to pay for the subscription requirement of EA Play for its terms of service and its EULA. That's 4 different EULAs to buy and play online with one video game.
As I said before, there is a massive cloud of drama surrounding this campaign because of Pirate Software, but he is not the only developer who's against the Stop Killing Games initiative. A quick example here is Chet Felze, one of the writers for Half-Life Portal and Left 4 Dead. And I myself have spoken with multiple developers who were initially against the initiative, and then they changed their minds when we talked it out some more. I'm not defending Pirate Software. I think his opinion is valid, and it makes sense if it's the first opinion you heard on the matter. Respectfully, it has nothing to do with the context of Stop Killing Games. I know people like Legendary Drops think Pirate Software's take on Stop Killing Games is so wrong that he believes Pirate Software is doing it intentionally. Maybe he is, but when multiple people are independently coming to the same conclusions, it makes me consider there's either something wrong with the language of the initiative that makes developers uncomfortable, or maybe the experience of being a game developer makes them see from a different perspective that non-developers cannot. But we'll never know unless we listen, and here's the points I heard. One of the biggest fears by far is that developers might become prisoners to games that they are forced to keep alive. Well, it's not the Keep Games Alive campaign, nor is it the Stop Games from Dying campaign. It's the Stop Killing Games campaign. It's a purposeful and intentional removal that the initiative is against. As the quote goes, specifically, the initiative seeks to prevent the remote disabling of video games by the publishers before providing reasonable means to continue functioning of said video games without the involvement from the side of the publisher. The definition of reasonable of a person having sound judgment, fair and sensible, as much as is appropriate or fair, moderate. A reasonable attempt to hand the game off to players is all that's being asked for. A try. You warn the players the game could disappear one day. You try your best. That's it. The gaming Gestapo isn't going to break into your house in the middle of the night and force you to keep the game running at gunpoint. Your great-great-grandchildren won't be forced to hold up the crumbling infrastructure of Left 4 Dead 2. And most importantly, this, like many initiatives, will not apply retroactively. You won't be made to pay alimony for abandoning your past works. This The second anti-SKG point is the amount of work a developer has to put in ahead of time to put in an end-of-life plan. It could be daunting and restrict what gets made, or maybe they'd have to give up something they couldn't hand over. Usually this train of thought ends up with a lot of assumptions that you have to leave a video game as good as the game was at its peak. Going back to Chet Falzak, he believes if a game had matchmaking to begin with, it should always have matchmaking to preserve a game's spirit, and that...
Realistically, this argument also involves the existence of the perpetuity of making a video game museum, or specifically, on this point,
leave a video game as good as the game was at its peak. Going back to Chet Falzak, he believes couldn't hand over. Usually this train of thought ends up with time to put in an end-of-life plan. It could be daunting and restrict what gets made, or maybe they'd have to give up something they couldn't hand over. Usually this train of thought ends up with a lot of assumptions that you have to leave a video game as good as the game was at its peak. Going back to Chet Falzak, he believes if a game had matchmaking to begin with, it should always have matchmaking to preserve a game's spirit, and that would take a lot of work to keep that service up. That's not what it's asking for. And personally, I don't think a game needs to be maintained with all the bells and whistles it operated on while it was alive. PirateSoftware made it seem as if Stop Killing Games would force online multiplayer games to be rebalanced and converted to single player, but I think that is assuming too much, if not just flat out ridiculous. SKG anticipates a lesser version of a game would be all that's left accessible, and that's fine. Effectively, games would become museums for themselves, and each genre or game would have to figure out what that means for itself.
In its current state, this kind of concern puts the developer in a position where understanding what it is that people want and being able to supply it to them means that you have to understand that what consumers will actually accept from you as a basic standard of your college effort try is not what is being demanded of people in the general sense. So, if I want to be able to play something like Drift City, which is by its official name called Skid Row, Drift City, and is currently being ran by the last company that has access to its live service offerings, which is the South Korean company Mazang Soft, which is the same company who is currently responsible for bringing it to Steam, although it has yet to come. I said Skid Row, it's Skid Rush. Excuse me. It is expected that in some formulation, the content that is already available in the material for this video game that is literally fucking, what, 12, 15 plus years old, just like Planet Fantasy Star Online 2, was 8 to 10 to 11, 12 plus years old. The material itself is being released in a concept where I do not have to go through the bells, whistles, and hoops to have to follow a specific design so that I can go to accounts like Drift City Remastered, which is in and of itself an actual simple setup that doesn't require that much interaction other than logging in to Discord so that you can join the remastered Discord server and then download the client at a click of a button. There are multiple forms of this content where, for some reason, developers in their position feel like they're being told to put the best peak of the content at the state of existence during its lifetime, and instead of just simply putting there what we would have already had access to from the material that we themselves could be able to decide. Like an older version of the game versus the live service version that's running with bells and whistles and additional source code.
If it's an MMO, maybe you're only left with the starting area. But who am I to say? I don't play that many MMOs, but the MMO community weigh in on that. This is a group effort. Talk to Josh Strive Hayes or anyone not me about MMOs. If it's a MOBA, specifically Smite, I'd like to at least be left with the training area and let me access the skins I purchased, because SKG doesn't apply to free-to-play games at all, unless they sold microtransactions. But again, it doesn't apply retroactively, so my purchases will be gone. Is any of this really that different from keeping an antique car or sealed comic books? No one holds on to those for practical reasons. It's sentimental. And the appreciating value, sure, but that's another topic. And the final big point from developers that I will push back on is the idea that regulations impede creative liberties. The government shouldn't dictate what gets put into a video game because they're censoring art, man. This might sound harsh, but to that I say your rights as a creative are different from your rights as a seller. You can make whatever you want just for you, but it's when you wish to enter a market that the rules of said market apply. Should predatory loot boxes be allowed simply because a developer deems it crucial to their artistic vision? Banksy, is that you? If you're turning your art into a commercial product, then there are commercial rules. This is nothing new nor exclusive to video games. And finally, after all this, there is still the big floating question for the undecided or the apathetic. Why should I care about any of this?
Because it's going to directly affect you in the future. You're either going to become a victim of bad business practices, or you're going to become a litigious person who seeks to punish them for having fucked you over personally. And both positions are correct, and both energies brought to same positions are also correct. I deserve to have the right to hold somebody accountable for stealing my money and not paying me my fucking time and effort for the transaction that I made with either my legal tender or with my effort of time. And I also deserve to have the right to expect that I'm not going to get nickeled and dimed and fucked in the ass just because somebody decided that I deserve to have my money stolen. Obviously, there's a goal for each of these, and both of them are fine, because both of them require agency from the position of the buyer and the position of the seller.
I'm not asking you to care.
Although, the last position that's left open is the position of the enjoyer, right? I understand that, especially when it comes to the side of Twitch,
free Wi-Fi, free internet, free video game, free booted, lifted off of people, stolen Wi-Fi, blah, 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 blah. But at some point, it's not just the buying and it's not just the selling. It's the enjoyment of the consumption. And the desire to then spread consumption by word of mouth. All three sides have to be understood.
I'm just asking you to sign. Ross cares. You don't have to. And you don't want to get to the position where you personally have to care, because that means you lost a game. It impacted you. If you're asking for stronger examples than games like The Crew, then what you're asking for is what I would call the perfect victim. That's when the right person gets hurt in just the right way, and then that moves legislation along. You're asking for a martyr, essentially. Are you volunteering? Is that what I'm hearing? Why would you wait till your house is on fire to buy fire insurance? I am presenting you a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to care a little now, so you don't have to care a lot later. I speak apathy. I'm a millennial. I know what it's like to feel like everything feels like a chore. My check engine light's been on for as long as I've had my car. You have to brush your teeth every day, because otherwise it just causes you grief. You have to plan meals, buy groceries, and cook like 3 times a day, and for what? Justification? Again? And now you're being asked to fill out forms. And the very least we could do is make it sound exciting or relevant. It's not exciting. It is relevant. This initiative, from a preventative standpoint, is as good as it's going to get with minimal casualties. If it doesn't pass, then the next time we have this conversation will be because it became more relevant, more exciting, and more bad things happen to you. We saw this exact same process happen with the refund systems and early access programs, so I have full faith that this is going to happen either now, when you're not bothered, or later, when you are bothered. Think of it this way, from one unbothered to another. I would rather be a signature on a petition than be a plaintiff or a victim.
And then, for me, the position from which I come from for it, from my unique personal standpoint, not as a broadcaster, not as a developer, not as a sometimes developer, not as a voice actor, not as a sometimes voice actor, but as a simple, regular nigga. I do not want to have my viewpoint be decided by fiat, by streamers and YouTubers who have a loud, annoying voice. Carl said, having said loud and annoying voice. And I do not want it to be decided by fiat, by people who are bean counters, like Randy Pitchford, versus people who are actual creatives, like Toby Fox. If an actual creative like Toby Fox was the one making the litigious coal in-game, more than likely he's going to argue for it from a position that is much more sensible and tenable than for others. But unfortunately, that is not the case. At all. In any format. In any shape, way, or form. Because of the fact of how people choose to handle it. It is dumb, retarded, gay, and stupid. And just like in Goober Gay 1 and Goober Gay 2, Goober Gay 3 isn't real. That's just the rantings of a retarded dumbass furry by the name of John Delaraz, who's mad that he power-worded 1488, and now the Nazis can't save him from the fact that the Nazbol Sun doesn't make money. We do not want to live through a Gamergate 4 event, just because there is a group of people that do not understand that the lolcows and the jokes are not more important than the actual litigious fun. And maybe for some people, because PirateSoftware is the goal, that's acceptable and that gets them going. Okay, be blessed, beloved. Do what you want. Be free. I'm not stopping you. But I do want them to consider there is a monster, and it is you! Remember the human, if nothing else. Remember the fact that he is human. And learn how to have your criticisms without having to try to basically argue for him to die, let alone attempt to say that you wish bad things happen, period. Don't do that. I disavow that entirely. But at the same time, know that even though he forgot the human, and will do exactly that and possibly more to other people, even when all they did was say, "That's crazy," remember that you are not a monster, and act accordingly. And consider your wallet. Protect your pockets. If you don't like it, don't buy it. If you don't like it and you don't want to buy it, don't play it. Don't give it time of day. Put your energy into things that you do want and that you should do. But also accept at the end of the day that everything is relative. It's not binary. It's dynamic. You have to keep your energy where it's deserved and where it belongs. And at the very least, that is your full deep dive. In 4 hours or less. TLDR, PirateSoftware, because he was an asshole during OnlyFangs 2, and because he was an asshole considering how he responded to Stop Killing Games 10 months ago, and he is still an asshole considering how he's trying to speak on the issues today, at this moment, currently in time, because my name isn't any of the people he decided he said did right by him. And it's not coming from a channel that is X amount of views large. Whether it be 100K, 200K, 1 million or plus. He decided we don't matter. The little people don't matter. And while the little people are responsible for bringing the movement up, keep in mind that 1, the movement's not done. You still have more ways to go. If you live in these regions, please go sign it. Make sure you do it right, because if you don't do it right, they will invalidate your signature, and it will actually cost us gained ground. Us. Do not pay into the actions and antics of PirateSoftware. Simply accept that this man is crying, malding mad, and will be basically a perpetual victim for the rest of his career. He'll whine about it. He'll make comments about how, damn, there are all these people who I know that I like the content of, but I know that I personally banned them from my stream, and now I don't have any interactions. Why can't I get any deals? Blah, 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 blah. And accept that he's just going to be who he is. He made his bed. He won't lie in it. It is what it is. Know that he's upset and that he's malding, and he can't find ways to explain it away other than you have to hate him. Know that you don't know enough about him personally to hate him, but know that you can hate his takes without being an evil Nazi that wants him to die. And at the end of the day, have fun. Have fun with your life, have fun with your friends, have fun with your family. Worry about the things that are important to you, and if nothing else, wake up happy that you breathed today. And that you didn't wake up dead. Because that's proof that you're alive. Because your life matters. So does your opinion. Alright. I leave you, chat, to the idle wild of the internet. Goodbye. Good night. Auf Wiedersehen, adieu. To you, to you, to you and you and you. Goodbye. And bon nuit. Bon nuit to you all. I might see you all in the morning. We'll see those of you who could not make it because you had work on the VOD. Should you like what you've heard, you like the look of my face, bless your face, and feel free to do any of the algorithmically promoting things. Like, share, subscribe, tell word of mouth, give me a compliment about my large hair, like my shirt, like my man titties, jiggle, jiggle, jiggle. And consider putting $1 in the hat. Because here at the Carl United Cringe Foundation, a Carl is a terrible thing to waste. And I can tell you for certain, my brain has gone to mush listening to PirateSoftware and his whining. And all I want to do is curl up into bed. If not, get Helldivers across the bridge. Do remember that Helldivers on Xbox is coming in August. They are also doing an update to the Warbond medal system. If you have purchased the Seal Veterans Edition or the Super Citizens Edition before this launch goes through, you will automatically be grandfathered in for your Warbond token. If you buy it afterwards, you have to buy the pack, and then you get a Warbond token that will be applied to your account. If you are a player that has wanted to play the game and you wanted to be on Helldivers, but you had an Xbox, know that it's coming soon to your console. It will be $40. I will be here, waiting, hunting, reinforcing for you. Mwah! Goodbye, everybody. I'll be reading you in the funny papers, and I'll be billing each and every one of you for therapy. Because remember, you should help, or you hate black people. That's a joke. Goodbye, everybody. See you in the morning. Probably. Yeah, today is Sunday, isn't it? We'll see when I go live with Yap in chat. Alright, goodbye. For real this time.